Chapter 783. A woman with a Lolita voice. Wow. Even though they were hidden in the clouds, the waves of heat that washed over them caused Yi Zichen and the others to gasp in shock. This flame Qilin is way too vicious, said Yuan Hong. He stared wide-eyed at the group of zombies that had turned to ash. That flame Qilin just now killed at least a few thousand. That spray just now killed at least a few thousand people. This is much better than refining my big brother's Samadhi true fire. True Samadhi fire. A sigh sounded out from beside him. Everyone turned around and saw Fatty Yin's eyes filled with disdain as he spoke in a very showy manner. True Samadhi fire is just a flame used by you immortals. Flame Qilins are primordial divine beasts. How could immortals compare? Let me tell you, this flame Qilin is just a child. If an adult flame Qilin can spit out 5-fold karmic fire of the Red Lotus, then it'll truly destroy the heavens and earth. The flames just now were purplish red. That's just a 4th-layer flame. True Samadhi fire is just a 2nd-layer flame. It can't compare to the flame Qilin's flames at all. However, flame Qilins generally use true Samadhi fire when they're young, but this one can actually use 4th-layer demonic flames. It's an astonishing genius. As he spoke, Fatty Yin's eyebrows were raised the entire time. Especially when he held his hands behind his back and looked like he was trying to show off. It was as if he could also use 4th-layer flames. Zhuer, how could you like that, Fatty? Su Lu'er was speechless. Su Zhu covered her face with her hands. In truth, Fatty Yin was a good person. It was just that he liked to show off sometimes, and she couldn't stop him. Then can this flame Qilin kill those progenitors? Asked Yi Zichen. They were thousands of meters away from the battlefield, but even so, they had no choice but to use their spiritual energy to resist the waves of heat. If the flame Qilin's flames hit the progenitors, who knew what would happen? This. I really can't say for sure. But a flame Qilin's flames can burn all things. Even if the zombie progenitors are extraordinarily strong, they'd still have to avoid it. Fatty Yin's words were clearly lacking in confidence. The flame Qilin's flames truly could burn all things. If they were talking about an adult fire Qilin, he wouldn't even need to think about it. But this fire Qilin was still in its infancy. Even if it used a 4th-layer flame, it was still far inferior to a 5th-layer flame. In his heart, he hoped that these progenitors would be afraid of the flames. Otherwise, just relying on passion and the conviction in his heart to deal with Denglong, that could only be said to be child's play. You're right. The fire Qilin continued to spit out purple-red flames from its mouth. None of the zombies were able to stay in the flames for even a second. Not long after, the Qilin seemed to be having fun. It spun around in circles, and the moisture in the surrounding air was evaporated by the flames. Mist filled the air. This fire Qilin is a problem. Jiangchen, who'd been silent all this time, spoke up. Although their surroundings were shrouded in mist, it didn't affect their vision at all. Do you want me to go and kill it? It's a young fire Qilin. Just give me 3 breaths of time. Ingo, who exuded a baleful aura, spoke. There's no need. Even if it's a young fire Qilin, it still uses 4th-layer flames. It's still a threat to us, replied Ho Qing. Then let it continue acting so presumptuously. We don't actually have that many children, but boss has set a limit. What's there to panic about? She hasn't arrived yet, has she? Wah, what an adorable baby Qilin. A lowly-like voice suddenly echoed through the mist. Through the mist, they could just barely make out a barefoot figure strolling leisurely through the fire Qilin's flames. The lying fire Qilin noticed this as well. It turned its head without hesitation. Tisk! A ball of purple-red flames shot toward the newcomer, but when it struck her, it only produced a few sparks. Baby Qilin, let big sister pet you, okay? All of a sudden, the lowly-voiced woman appeared in front of the fire Qilin, her fair palm reaching out to touch the fire Qilin's head. She's really looking to die. Even a young fire Qilin can't be touched, especially its head. She wants to pet its head without making it recognize her as its master? She can forget about her hands, sneered Fatty Een. Fatty Een sneered. He seemed to be imagining the flame Cheelant's flames burning her hand, but the woman's hands were indeed on the fire Cheelant's head, but her hands were completely unharmed. How is this possible? Fatty Een shouted in fright. Baby Cheelant, you're probably not an adult yet. I really like Cheelants, so don't be Nuwa's mount. How about you become mine? I can give you a lot of delicious food. What do you think? The woman stroked the fire Cheelant's flames as if she were petting a pet dog, her voice pleasant to the ears. Tsk. The flames on the fire Cheelant's body suddenly rose a few centimeters, and the surrounding temperature also became hotter. Woman, take your hands off me. The fire Cheelant's fiery eyes gazed at the woman in front of it. You can actually talk? The woman arched her brows in surprise. Then how about you answer what I said just now? How about becoming my mount? Under the woman's expectant gaze, the fire Cheelant let out 2 puffs of hot air from its nostrils. At the same time, it turned its head away, clearly disdainful of the woman's suggestion. You actually rejected me? I'm so sad. She puckered her lips and took a step back. All of a sudden, thud. The fire Cheelant, a divine beast, was slammed into the ground by the woman. The woman's lowly voice turned incomparably sinister. You're just a beast, yet you're still picky about your master? I'm giving you. Tsk. The fire Cheelant on the ground spat out a stream of flames. The woman's face filled with shock as she was instantly engulfed by the flames. You actually dared to touch my head? Only Her Highness can touch my head. Are you worthy? The fire Cheelant turned around disdainfully, but… Hee. The woman's sinister laughter rang out from within the flames. The fire Cheelant, who just turned around, paused. Just now, it had spat out its natal true fire. Even though it was young, its flames had almost reached the 5th layer. But this woman… What a disobedient baby Cheelant. Little baby, you might not know this, but Big Sister has a bad habit. If I can't have it, I'll destroy it. Crack. The woman's finger stabbed hard into the Cheelant's head, instantly piercing through its skull. Fresh blood seeped into the ground, dyeing it a dark red. The fire Cheelant's red eyes gradually dimmed. It fell to its knees, lifeless. She stuck her finger into her mouth and sucked the taste of the fire Cheelant's blood. At that moment, the woman rose to her feet and looked into the sky. Chapter 784. Chapter 784. What would the 3 realms do? The flame Cheelant's blood really is a top-notch nourishing tonic. After licking the blood off her fingers, the lowly-voiced woman squatted down in front of the Cheelant and dipped her hand in the blood. Scram! Lady Nuwa raised her hand and sent a ray of multicolored light towards the woman. The woman leaped up, barely dodging it. Boom! The multicolored light struck the ground, creating a deep crater. The lowly-voiced woman gasped in astonishment as she looked at the charred pit in front of her that was still emitting smoke. Lady Nuwa lives up to her reputation as a goddess. Even a spiritual technique with a wave of your hand is so powerful. But since you're so strong, why did you just watch as your Cheelant died? The lowly-voiced woman smiled playfully, but Lady Nuwa ignored her. She merely glanced at her indifferently, walked up to the Cheelant, and tapped its forehead. Whoosh! The flame Cheelant dissolved into motes of starlight and disappeared. The lowly-voiced woman shrugged and laughed, stingy. But friends up there, aren't you going to come down yet? Do you want me to personally invite you down? They discovered us. Yuan Hong's brows shot up, and his Adam's apple bobbed. He kept rubbing his hands against his clothes. His palms were simply too sweaty. The people up in the clouds had all personally witnessed the lowly-voiced woman obliterate the flame Cheelant. Don't worry about it. Fatty Yin's face was also covered in sweat, but in his heart, he comforted himself that he was sweating because he was too fat. Just now, the flame Cheelant's flames had warmed him up. After 15 minutes, the lowly-voiced woman pursed her lips into a smile. It seems you really do want me to personally invite you down. It's just that my method of inviting people is a bit special. I hope you can handle it. With that, she suddenly turned around and pointed at the clouds. Break. The people hidden in the clouds felt a chill run down their spines. Yi Zichen instinctively hugged Su Yan and leapt 100 meters to the side. The others did the same. The moment they left. Boom. The ink-colored clouds exploded in an instant, and thick smoke shrouded everyone's vision. After more than a dozen breaths of time, the smoke gradually dissipated, but they were also revealed to the outside world. This isn't something they can handle. I hope they're smart enough to run. Lady Nuwa sighed inwardly. Given her strength, she'd sensed Yi Zichen and the others as soon as they arrived. But most of her attention was on Mo Tiange, so she had no time to care about them. Are you all right? Yi Zichen grabbed Su Yan's shoulders and checked her out. To be honest, although the two of them had confirmed their relationship as a couple in the modern world, it was only in the ambiguous phase. Due to the many twists and turns that happened in the middle, they were actually just a couple in name, but they rarely hugged each other. Su Yan blushed when she saw Yi Zichen's worried expression at such a close distance. Then, he lowered his head and shook his head. I'm fine. That's good. Yi Zichen reached out his hand and caressed her hair with a gentle smile. My friend up there, come down and have a chat. The lowly's voice rang out from the void again. Everyone in the void looked at each other. After witnessing this woman kill the flame Qilin with their own eyes, they'd be lying if they said their convictions hadn't been shaken. If Fatty Yin thought about it, then run. The flame Qilin was dead. What else could they do? Throw their lives away? What's the harm in going down? Yi Zichen smiled calmly, then descended from the sky. When they saw him move, the others followed. Fatty Yin was the only one left. After a moment of hesitation, he gritted his teeth and followed. And here I thought you'd run. The lowly's true appearance hadn't been revealed. Yi Zichen ignored her and walked up to Lady Nuwa. Then, he received a transmission in his sea of consciousness. Why are you here? It's definitely not something you can handle. Why didn't you run just now? Hey, niece, what are you saying? As your uncle, how could I just leave you behind? Aren't you mocking your uncle? Transmitted Yi Zichen. I don't have time for your glib tongue right now. It really isn't something you can handle. If I descended with my true body, I might be able to protect you. But this time, it's just a primordial spirit. When my primordial spirit self-destructs, take advantage of the chaos and run for your life. Lady Nuwa frowned. Don't. Just give it a shot. No one knows what the outcome will be until the very end. This isn't the time to be a hero, sighed Nuwa. Then do you think I should run? Yi Zichen looked at Nuwa. When she nodded at him, he couldn't help but transmit back. But you probably haven't considered the fact that the people here are already the strongest of the three realms. If we're no match for Denglong and you self-destruct, what will happen to the three realms? Nuwa fell silent. She'd once cared about all life in the world, but she'd never considered this. She'd long since prepared for the worst-case scenario. She'd self-destructed her primordial spirit and abandoned this place. Once she returned to the God realm, she'd open a path and take the higher-ups of the heavenly court, underworld, and immortal region with her. Once she'd recovered from her primordial spirit self-destruction, she'd take her time with her. No matter how fierce Denglong was, it wouldn't dare cause trouble in the God realm. But she'd forgotten that the people at the bottom of the hierarchy were also living beings. The spiritual beasts of the beast region were also living beings. Just when had she become like this? Could it be that she'd truly lost her conscience after spending so much time in a high position? Fortunately, Yi Zichen's question, what will happen to the three realms, had woken her up. Otherwise, she might never have noticed that her heart had actually changed. Thank you. Lady Nuwa's transmission was sincere, but Yi Zichen had no idea that his words had affected her so greatly. He'd naively assumed that Nuwa was thanking him for coming over to help. Niece, what are you saying? We're all family, so don't be so polite. I have to thank you for this. If it weren't for you, I might have lost all will to fight. Is that so? Nuwa chuckled, but she didn't believe him. How could someone who cared about the entire world lose their will to fight in the face of a powerful enemy? She merely smiled but said nothing. Then, she noticed that Yi Zichen and Yi Zichen's group had a special type of spiritual energy that caught her attention. She glanced behind Yi Zichen. Fatty Yin scratched his face and lowered his head. Yin Shang, when did you descend? This transmission was like a chat group. Everyone on Yi Zichen's side could hear it, said Fatty Yin with a chuckle. Lady Providence, I can't explain it all in a short time. Please don't ask. Chapter 785. Chapter 785. 6th Level Soul Locking Formation. Lady Providence, are you sure my meager attainments in spiritual formations will be effective against that Denglong? In the voice transmission discussion group, Fatty Yin couldn't help but want to retreat after hearing Goddess Nuwa's suggestion. Setting up a spiritual formation to trap the zombie progenitors was definitely the biggest joke he'd ever heard this year. Can't you be a little more strong-willed? Why are you always so cowardly? We're the ones fighting them. All you have to do is guarantee Lil Zhu and Lil Yan's safety. Can't you even do that? Su Lu couldn't help but frown. They'd already reached this point, yet this fatty was still so afraid. Big sister, didn't you see how the flame Qilin died? Fatty Yin transmitted anxiously. I'm not cowardly, I'm just afraid the spiritual formation won't work against them. Isn't that just pushing you into a pit of fire? That's our only option, said Lady Nuwa. Inwardly, she couldn't help but sigh. Fatty Yin's worries weren't without reason, but given the current situation, they could only hope that his spiritual formation would have some effect against the zombie progenitors. The 8 formation origin chart is in your hands. Even if you're not confident in your spiritual formations, you should at least have faith in your divine artifact. It's a divine artifact that all spiritual formation masters in the God realm yearn for even in their dreams. Its power is absolutely beyond your imagination. So long as you can set up a 4-level soul-locking formation, we might even stand a chance. As Lady Nuwa and the others conversed, the lowly-voiced woman walked up to Ho Qing and the others. When he saw her, Ingo's Adam's apple bobbed involuntarily. Even the taciturn Jiangchen arched his brows. When the lowly-voiced woman saw this, "Heh." She smiled icily, then Ingo and Jiangchen nodded awkwardly at her. Ho Qing stepped forward and smiled. You're here? If I hadn't come, were you prepared to let the flame Qilin burn all your progenitors? The lowly-voiced woman looked displeased. Ho Qing pursed his lips. But in the end, you still came, didn't you? And you even killed that beast. Among us, you're the only one who isn't afraid of its flames. I have no choice but to do this. Humph. The lowly-voiced girl snorted, then ignored Ho Qing and smiled towards Yi Zichen and company once again. Are you done chatting? You're in such a hurry. Fatty, who was already nervous, couldn't help but turn around and retort when he heard the lowly-voiced girl's urging. When the others heard him, they looked back and saw the lowly-voiced woman's face. When the others heard his exclamation, they also turned around, and when they saw the face of the lowly-voiced girl, if her back view could be described as devastatingly beautiful, then her front view was definitely one that worried about the country and its people. Her face could only be described as incomparably ugly. Anyone who saw the woman's face would be amazed. When Goddess Nuwa pinched her, she wouldn't be able to do it even if she used her foot to pinch her. 9 full Yuan Hong stage Yuan side. Bro, your words are really creative. Thrilling. That's the perfect word, Fatty Yin said in an ingratiating manner. It's okay. People have to be creative, right? As the two of them chatted among themselves, the expression of the lowly-voiced woman in front of them became increasingly gloomy. The other 3 zombie progenitors also felt their hearts sink. That woman hated it when people talked about her appearance. She had tried countless times to use her spiritual power to change her appearance, but because she was already a dead person, she was only left in the form of a zombie, so she could not change her appearance. From then on, whenever anyone talked about her appearance, or even if they didn't talk about it, they would reveal a shocked expression. All of them were dead. Sigh. You're quite humble. The two of them were still putting on a show. The lowly-voiced woman lightly touched the white jade pendant in front of her purple robes and smiled sinisterly. Are you done talking? Sorry. Fatty Een quickly laughed apologetically. Fatty Een hurriedly laughed at her apologetically. I didn't take your feelings into consideration, but to be honest, your face is quite scary. You must have done a lot of evil in your previous life, ha 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 ha. Yuan Hong also laughed heartily. Their unbridled laughter was something that the lowly-voiced girl could no longer endure. You're courting death. Boom. She suddenly exerted force with her right foot, compressing spiritual energy beneath it. She turned into a streak of light and shot forward. Remember what we said just now? Follow the original plan. At the same time, Lady Nuwa sent a transmission. The rainbow sky-mending stone was tossed into the air, its dazzling rainbow light causing the speeding lowly-voiced woman to pause. However, she only paused for a moment before completely ignoring the seven-colored stone in the air. She only had eyes for Fatty Een and Yuan Hong. They actually dared to laugh at her appearance. She had to kill them. Die. She mercilessly swung her right fist towards Fatty Yin's head. Since she had already locked onto him, she was confident that her fist would definitely hit. The head was also a person's weakest point, so this attack would definitely kill him. Just at this moment, a long sword flickering with a cold light blocked her fist. The instant her fist collided with the long sword, a fierce gust of wind howled. The wind caused Su Yen and Su Zhu to be unable to open their eyes. Lady Nuwa hurriedly placed a barrier around them, allowing them to feel slightly better. These two are the reason I feel the most uneasy. Lady Nuwa couldn't help but sigh in her heart. Su Yen and Su Zhu weren't good at fighting. In a clash of peak experts like this, their existence would only be a hindrance. Wow, we're saved. Fatty Een let out a long sigh. Just now, he truly felt as if the Grim Reaper was only an inch away from him. It's you. The lowly-voiced woman took a step back and smiled disdainfully at Yi Zichen, who was holding Xianyuan's sword. Yi Zichen replied plainly, then sheathed Xianyuan's sword. What's there to hide now? Do you really think I won't notice? Yi Zichen had indeed blocked the punch just now, but the powerful force had passed through the sword and torn the webbing between his thumb and forefinger. At that moment, the hand holding the sword trembled slightly. This woman is truly troublesome. But you should be proud of yourself for being able to take a punch from me, laughed the lowly-voiced woman. We can't let Hanba take on all of them by herself. Let's go, it's our turn. Ho Qing squinted his eyes and smiled. Ingo and Jiangchen nodded, but before they'd taken more than a few steps, thud, their bodies suddenly fell uncontrollably to the ground. It wasn't just him. Ingo suffered the same fate. What's wrong? Jiangchen frowned as he watched the two of them fall to the ground. Then he turned his head and saw Fatty Een standing stiffly, his eyes and nose bleeding. Suspended above his head was a formation diagram depicting the 8 formation diagram. Chapter 786. 3 feet of ice, a dazed chill 6-level soul-locking formation. It was a spiritual formation that used the 6 directions of heaven and earth to imprison souls. Setting up this sort of formation required at least a Grandmaster's mastery of formations, and the strength of a saint. Even so, there was a chance of failure. Lady Nuwa had only asked him to set up 4 of the formations, but he was worried that they wouldn't be effective against the primordial vicious beast Denglong. They'd all die. It was for Yi Zichen's safety and for his own. He'd rather take a gamble. Blood flowed from all 4 of his orifices, but at that moment, he seemed so majestic. Even Su Luer, who'd been looking for trouble, was stunned. Her previous dislike for him vanished. Fatty, I misjudged you. You're very manly, laughed Su Lu. What do you think? I'm a real man. Bang. After saying that, Fatty Een collapsed to the ground. Yi Zichen and the others felt their hearts skip a beat. At that moment, Lady Nuwa transmitted a message to them. Don't worry about him. Just now, he set up a 6-level soul-locking formation. Given his strength, he shouldn't have been able to set it up. However, he forcefully set it up. He used up all his spiritual energy and damaged some of his soul. Once we've dealt with the zombie progenitors, I'll take him back to the God realm and help him recover. With that, Lady Nuwa couldn't help but nod inwardly. Given the current situation, they already had an absolute advantage. Een Shang. Tears welled up in Su Zhu's eyes as she hugged Fatty Een. She carefully wiped the blood from his eyes and nostrils. In that moment, he was her hero. That Fatty's pretty reliable at the critical juncture. Su Luer smiled, then turned her piercingly cold gaze to Hanba. Now, all they had to do was deal with her. So it's a 6-level soul-locking formation. A soul floated above Ho Ching's body. Ingo was the same. Their souls were sealed, unable to move. Ho Ching had no choice but to speak to Jiangchen. Jiangchen, go help Hanba. Give me an hour and I'll definitely be able to get out of this soul-locking array. Jiangchen nodded silently, but didn't go help Hanba. Instead, he went directly to Nuwa. We meet again. Jiangchen's voice was a bit hoarse. He knew that even if he went to help Hanba, he wouldn't be able to. In the end, it was also Nuwa who fought with him. That way, Nuwa wouldn't have a chance to help Yi Zichen and the others. He also believed in his heart that it was impossible for Hanba to be killed by those people. A black sandstorm swirled around him, and wisps of corpse energy wrapped around Lady Nuwa and the others. You don't have cheese soul on you. Nuwa frowned. With a calm smile, Jiangchen lowered the hat on his head. Do you understand now? So that's how it is. Lady Nuwa's expression only paused for a moment before she smiled in understanding. Let's do it. Tisk tsk, I didn't think that there would be someone here who could use the 6-level soul-locking formation. There was a faint smile on Hanba's ugly face. She scratched her hair and squinted her eyes. But don't tell me that you think you have a chance of winning just like that? Do you think you can still hold the sword in your hand? Who knows? Yi Zichen shrugged and laughed, but blood dripped down his sword and onto the ground. In truth, I quite admire you, but the people behind you must die. And those women, they're so weak, but they're so pretty. It really makes me jealous. His cold gaze swept across Su Yan and Su Zhu, then Hanba raised his eyebrows. Why is there a woman missing? Are you looking for me? At that moment, Su Luer's 9 snow-white tails spread out behind her. She wore an azure dress and tapped the air. So you're hiding in the sky. Tails. No wonder you're so beautiful. So you're a vixen, sneered Hanba. You don't like people calling you ugly? Unfortunately, I don't like people calling me a vixen either. Then why don't you hurry up and kill me? Hanba laughed fearlessly. What's the rush? I've got a set meal waiting for you. With that, Su Luer raised her hands devoutly into the sky. World of ice and snow. Snow the size of goose feathers floated down from the sky. In just a few breaths of time, the entire 9-tailed fox clan was covered in silver. Wow, is this all you've got? Hanba laughed mockingly. The appearance of the snowflakes did indeed cause the temperature to plummet. But what did this sort of low temperature mean to her? What's the rush? Look at your feet. Su Luer squinted her eyes and laughed. Hanba glanced at her feet. When? Hanba instinctively tried to pull her feet out. Isn't it a bit too late to struggle now? Humph, don't act like a villain intoxicated by success. It's just a bit of ice. Watch me break it. Hidorigami's right fist smashed into the layer of ice on the ground. Dong. It didn't break. Without any hesitation, she punched again. In terms of mastery of the ice element, if I claimed to be second in the 3 realms, no one would dare claim to be first. The ice I create isn't something you can break just because you want to, snorted Su Lu, a villain intoxicated by success. So what if you freeze me? Do you dare come down and fight me? You don't dare, said Hanba. You're right, said Su Lu. I really don't dare go down and fight you. Earlier, I suffered at your hands in close combat. But Yi Zichen did say something very well. I'm a long-range sorcerer, so why should I fight you close-range warriors? If you don't like me, then why don't you come up and fight me? Su Lu squinted her eyes and shrugged. Every now and then, she hugged her tail and scratched her cheeks. She looked like she was attracting as much hatred as she could muster. Ha! said Hanba. Then let's just keep waiting. After an hour, my other two souls will naturally break out of the soul-locking formation. When that happens, you'll still die. Is that so? Su Lu shrugged calmly. But it seems you can't wait that long. Have you forgotten that there's a close-range warrior right in front of you? Su Lu hugged her tail and laughed. Him? Hanba pointed at Yi Zichen, then burst into laughter. You don't think he can defeat me, do you? Even if my feet are sealed, do you think he can defeat me? Then what if I freeze you completely? Then, as soon as Hanba opened her mouth, she felt the ice beneath her feet climb up her body. In just a few breaths of time, the lower half of her body was frozen solid. At that moment, Su Lu spoke up once more. Chapter 787. Chapter 787. Flying zombies. 3 feet of ice wasn't built in a day. This saying had no effect on Su Lu at all. As the Empress spoke, the ice around Hanba's body began to spread even faster. Break! Hanba's fists kept landing on the sturdy ice layer, and the loud thuds were incessant. But no matter what she did, she couldn't stop the ice from spreading. In the blink of an eye, the ice had completely enveloped her. Atop the nearby battlefield, Jiangchen's heart trembled inexplicably. The 4 zombie progenitors could sense each other's movements. If he wasn't mistaken, something had definitely gone wrong with Hanba. Scram! Jiangchen punched away Lady Nuwa's spiritual technique, then a pair of wings sprouted from his back and he soared into the sky. Although the zombie progenitors were incredibly strong, they had their flaws. Since they were dead, they couldn't use the laws of heaven and earth, nor could they fly. They weren't adept at using spiritual techniques, but their physical strength was unmatched by even divine beasts. However, there was one special existence among them, Jiangchen. He could fly. He flapped his wings, stirring up fierce winds. Lady Nuwa wiped the blood from the corners of her mouth. She cursed inwardly, then hurried towards Yi Zichen and the others. Yi Zichen, I've done everything I can. It's up to you now. Su Lu looked somewhat listless. Although she'd only used 2 spiritual techniques, both were extremely energy-consuming. The Xianyuan sword flew out of his hand and hovered above his head. The myriad mysterious concealed swords. Yi Zichen had learned of this sword technique after retrieving the Yellow Emperor's memories. Its effects weren't much different from the 8 Desolace's sword. However, the sword technique's strength lay in the number of sword images it produced. They shone brightly. One illusory Xianyuan sword after another appeared around him, but then, my Lu is amazing. Look at this ice sculpture. It's almost a work of art. Yuan Hong, who'd been assigned to look after Su Yan and the others, suddenly appeared. He smiled and fawned over Su Lu. But why did you come out? Yi Zichen and Su Lu asked at practically the same time. They really had a tacit understanding. Yuan Hong muttered in his heart before shrugging his shoulders. There are a total of 4 progenitors. 2 of them have been imprisoned by the fatty. One was locked in a fierce battle with Lady Nuwa, and the only one was sealed by Lu. I don't think there will be any accidents, so I came out for a stroll. This was indeed the reason. It was better to be safe than sorry. You should go back to Su Yan and the others. Yi Zichen frowned, and the swords around him grew increasingly dense. Yuan Hong glanced at him and raised his eyebrows. This spiritual technique of yours looks pretty powerful. Next time when you have time, let me see its effects. Since all of you have said so, I won't stay here any longer. I'll go back now." With that, as expected, Yuan Hong wanted to bid farewell to Su Luer. However, before he could speak, he saw a black shadow. "Luer, be careful." Swoosh. A staff suddenly appeared in Yuan Hong's hand. With a forceful kick, he flew towards Su Luer. What happened? Su Luer furrowed her brows. Suddenly, she felt a chill run down her back. "You were the one who sealed Hanba in ice, weren't you? Once I get rid of you, everything should be fine. However, that spiritual technique down there seems to be quite the threat. You'd best come with me." Not giving her any chance to resist, his palm turned into a knife hand and struck her neck. "You ate Grandpa Yuan Hong." Suddenly, Jiangchen turned his head. When he saw Jiangchen's blood-red eyes, Yuan Hong froze involuntarily, as if he'd just seen a vicious beast. Gulp. He couldn't help but gulp. Then he saw Su Luer in Jiangchen's hands. "Your grandpa Yuan Hong will fight you to the death." Yuan Hong hurried to Jiangchen's aid. He swung his staff at Jiangchen's head. This strike carried the force of 1,000 caddies, but, crack, the staff broke. Jiangchen, however, was unharmed. Where did this wild monkey come from? He flicked his finger at Yuan Hong's forehead. Whoosh! Thud! Yuan Hong instantly fell to the ground, smashing a deep crater into the ground. Yuan Hong. Yi Zichen furrowed his brows. Before he could move, Jiangchen landed in front of him. When he saw Jiangchen, who seemed to be smiling, Yi Zichen's brows furrowed even deeper. Wasn't Goddess Nuwa fighting with him? What was he doing here? A beam of multicolored light tore through the air. When it dissipated, Lady Nuwa stepped out. When she saw Su Luer in Jiangchen's hands, she was a step too late. Lady Nuwa. Yi Zichen was no longer in the mood to joke around with Nuwa. He simply frowned at her. From his expression, Nviwa knew that he needed an explanation from her. "I was careless," said Nuwa apologetically, then turned to Jiangchen. "Let her go." "It's not that we can't let her go, but we have to be fair, right? You can let Hanba go, but Big Sister Luer sealed her. If she can release her, that's all." There was no need to think too much about it. Jiangchen was absolutely referring to Hanba. So we really had to rely on her. Fortunately, I didn't kill her in passing. Jiangchen arched his brows in apparent delight, then rapped Su Luer on the head. "HM?" Su Luer slowly opened her eyes. "Little girl, this little brother says only you can release her. Unseal the drought demon, and I can spare your life. Dream on." Su Luer snorted disdainfully, then glanced at Yi Zichen and shouted, "Yi Zichen, why haven't you made a move yet? If you kill her, Denglong will lose a soul. Exchanging my life for a primordial beast's soul is worth it." "Clan head of the 9-tailed foxes, we can't do that," said Lady Nuwa. Although Yi Zichen said nothing, he was obviously thinking the same thing. "What on earth are you doing? It wasn't easy for us to get this result. If we release Hanba and the fatty's soul-locking formation loses its effect, we'll all die." "Little girl, do you really think I don't exist? You're in my hands right now. How dare you say such a thing?" Jiangchen smiled calmly, but anyone could sense the fury in his heart. "What are you waiting for?" Su Luer ignored him completely. She simply urged Nuwa and Yi Zichen to attack. "Clan head of the 9-tailed foxes, you truly are the Empress. You're brave enough to sacrifice yourself. I'm impressed." At that moment, an unfamiliar voice appeared behind them. Chapter 788. Fearless. Even though the newcomer was wearing a woven rush raincoat, making it impossible to see his face clearly, Yi Zichen was far too familiar with his tone. He didn't even need to guess. A certain person's image involuntarily appeared in his mind. Gu Li. The Xianyuan sword above his head buzzed, and the 1,000 mysterious escaping swords by his side trembled and emitted sword cries. "You recognize me?" The man in the raincoat smiled calmly, then waved his right hand. As expected, the person standing before them was none other than Gu Li. He held Su Yen and Su Zhu in his hands. Gu Li didn't know what technique he'd used on them, but their eyes were tightly shut, and their breathing was barely discernible. "Boss!" Jiangchen bowed to Gu Li. When he saw this, Yi Zichen knit his brows. The zombie progenitors were actually Gu Li's subordinate. "I really regret not killing you back in the modern realm." Yi Zichen's chest heaved violently. So many things had happened, and more than half of them had been Gu Li's doing. If he'd eliminated Gu Li back in the modern realm, perhaps all this wouldn't have happened. His furious rebuke reached his sword intent. The myriad mysterious concealed swords trembled even more violently, as if they might break free of his control at any moment. What's the point of saying all this now? There's no medicine for regret in this world. Gu Li smiled calmly, then glanced meaningfully at Jiangchen. "Let our empress go. With these two girls in my hands, I'm sure she'll make her choice." Bang! She pushed Su Lu to the ground. Now freed, she rose to her feet and looked calmly at Gu Li. "What do you want?" When she first saw Su Yen and Su Zhu, her expression didn't change in the slightest. Perhaps it was more accurate to say that she'd spent far too much energy, so she'd gotten used to hiding her emotions. However, the calmer she was, the more furious she became. He could bully her, but he couldn't bully her little sister. That was her bottom line. When Gu Li used Su Yen and Su Zhu to threaten her, she'd had no choice but to compromise. Even so, her fury towards him continued to build. A fearless smile appeared on Gu Li's face. That was the smile. No matter when it was, he was always like this. It was as if he was toying with everyone in the palm of his hand. Yi Zichen hated this sort of smile from the bottom of his heart. What drove him crazy was that Gu Li always led him by the nose. Didn't I say it just now? I want to use the lives of these two girls to exchange for Hanba's life that you've sealed. 2 for 1, you won't lose anything. It really is a very good deal, replied Su Lu calmly. It's great that you think so too. With that, Gu Li placed Su Yen and Su Zhu a step to the side. This is a sign of my sincerity. Shouldn't you release Hanba as well? Swoosh. The instant Gu Li let go, Yi Zichen appeared beside Su Yen. Brother Yi, we've already fought so many times, why don't you have a good memory? If your sword destroys Hitorigami, then this girl can forget about waking up in this lifetime. Besides, even a vicious tiger doesn't eat its cubs. No matter what, Hanba is still your daughter. Are you in such a hurry to kill her? Just as Yi Zichen was about to release the myriad mysterious concealed swords, Gu Li suddenly spoke up from behind him. What exactly did you do to them? Jiangchen grabbed Gu Li by the collar, frowned, and took a step forward. At the same time, Lady Nuwa blocked his way. Although she didn't say anything, it was clear from her actions that if he wanted to touch Yi Zichen, he'd have to touch her first. Gu Li shook his head at Jiangchen, then smiled. Brother Ye's temper is as fiery as ever, but impulsiveness alone won't solve the problem. If you want them to live, disperse the swords around you. I'm a coward, and I get nervous easily. When I'm nervous, I do rather extreme things. You should understand what I mean, right? Despicable. Yi Zichen pushed Gu Li away, then dispersed his swords. You're quite strong. Gu Li straightened his clothes, cracked his neck, and laughed. Brother Yi, there's no need to be nervous. I merely placed a soul-calming curse on them. As long as the Empress can release Hanba from the ice, these two will naturally not be in any danger. Do you think I'd believe you? Said Yi Zichen. You have no choice but to believe me. Gu Li's expression darkened. Don't even think about getting lucky. I'm very afraid of death. Since I dared to come out at a time like this, I naturally have complete confidence. Even if Lady Nuwa were here, there's no way she could break my soul-calming curse. If you don't believe me, you can try. Yi Zichen glanced vaguely at Lady Nuwa. Before long, he and Su Lu received a transmission from her. This soul-calming curse is very strange. I really can't break it. All right, we agree to your request, but you have to wake my little sister up first, said Su Lu. That's impossible, but I can wake one of them up first. As for the other, we'll wait until the Empress releases Hanba. I'm absolutely sincere. What do you think? Gu Li arched his brows and smiled. After a moment of silence, Yi Zichen and the others nodded. They walked towards Su Yan and Su Luer, while Yi Zichen stood in the middle, blocking Gu Li's path. Get out of my way. You're in my way. Creak. Yi Zichen clenched his fists, then silently walked to the side. He watched as Gu Li gently tapped Su Zhu's forehead. Lil Yen, don't worry about me, shouted Su Zhu, startled awake. Then she saw Gu Li crouching in front of her. You. Gu Li smiled calmly and rose to his feet. His gaze landed on Su Lu. Look. Su Lu's expression was icy. Without hesitation, she waved her right hand, and the ice rapidly melted. Bang! The ice shattered. Hanba, who'd escaped, ran up to Gu Li. Thank you for saving me, boss. Su Lu nodded calmly, then said, It's your turn. It's your turn. Don't try to play any tricks with me. If I can freeze her once, I can freeze her a second time. You damned bitch, you just caught me off guard. Hanba glared and cursed. Gu Li reached out and stopped her, then smiled and nodded at Su Lu. Of course I trust the Ice Empress methods, and I've never tried to play any tricks on you. Since you've released Hanba, I'll naturally wake your little sister up. He slowly walked up to Su Yan, then repeated the same actions as before. Chapter 789. Do you dare? Ha! Gu Li smiled faintly. He pursed his lips, turned around, and shrugged helplessly. What are you doing? Whoosh! The Xianyuan sword returned to Yi Zichen's hand. His expression was terrifyingly dark. You want to fight? Gu Li grinned, then shrugged nonchalantly. You're really too impulsive. In truth, I'm not at a disadvantage in numbers. As soon as he finished speaking, the two souls that Fatty Een had locked down with all his might broke free from the soul-locking formation. The souls melted back into their bodies. Ho Ching and Ingo arrived behind Gu Li and stared gloomily at Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen's brows twitched involuntarily. How could they be so fast? Both Nviwa and Yi Zichen had the same question. An hour shouldn't have passed so quickly. It's strange that they were able to escape the formation in less than an hour, isn't it? In truth, it's all thanks to Brother Su. He's been studying formations in the demon realm. I've always been on good terms with him, so I know a thing or two about it. Do you really think you're worthy of calling Yun brother? Snorted Yi Zichen. Sorry, I actually forgot about his relationship with the one standing in front of me. If that's the case, then Su Yun and I really can't call each other brothers. Gu Li's smile never faded. He laughed mockingly at Yi Zichen. But given your good relationship, didn't he join the demon realm as well? I didn't see him fight alongside you. Su Yun is a rare formation grandmaster. With him, you'd be like a tiger with wings. I definitely wouldn't dare act presumptuously in front of you. Big brother. Su Yan, who'd just woken up, heard Su Yun's name. She struggled out of Su Zhu's arms and shouted at Gu Li. You know my brother? How is he now? Him? Gu Li smirked. He's in pretty bad shape right now. What happened to him? Asked Su Yan nervously. Yi Zichen's heart trembled inexplicably. Although so much had happened, he didn't seem to care much about Su Yun's news, but deep down, he still cared. Gu Li chuckled and paced back and forth. He should be like a stray dog now, right? As he spoke, he glanced at Yi Zichen from time to time, as if anticipating any changes in his emotions. It's just a dove occupying a magpie's nest. Why do you have to slander others? Stray dog, aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? Yi Zichen said in disdain. He already found out about the changes in the demon realm when Xiao Yumei returned. Earlier, he'd thought Gu Li was talking about something else, but when he heard stray dogs, he understood. You're pretty well informed, Gu Li couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and smile. I didn't expect you to know about the situation in the demon realm. You're quite capable. You actually managed to take over the entire demon realm, said Yi Zichen. Su Lu's expression changed. Yi Zichen knew about this beforehand, but she didn't. Demon world, now, it was actually in the hands of this person. You flatter me. I just used a few tricks. Gu Li pursed his lips and laughed. But in truth, your brother's situation really isn't looking too good. He's already at the end of his rope in order to research spiritual formations. He probably doesn't have many years left. Bullshit, Yi Zichen cursed. Believe it or not, it's up to you. Gu Li shrugged calmly, then turned around and smiled. I've stayed in the demon realm for too long. I'm really not used to a place as rich in spiritual energy as the three realms. Never mind, I won't talk to you any longer. I'm going. He took a few steps forward, then suddenly turned around and swept his gaze over Nuwa and the others. How about I take care of you guys here? Yi Zichen and the others instantly tensed up. Just now, they'd had a hard time dealing with the two zombie progenitors. Now, Fatty Een could no longer place a soul-locking formation. Hamba's gaze was fixed on Su Lu. She was the one who'd frozen her. The others also fixed their gazes on Nuwa. There were old and new grudges between them. All they needed was Gu Li to say the word, and they'd all attack at once. Ha ha ha, I'm just joking, Gu Li suddenly laughed. Gu Li suddenly laughed, then looked mockingly at Yi Zichen and company. Don't be nervous. This isn't the time to take your lives. Your heads can still stay on your necks for a few more days. Why don't we just kill them right here and now? There's no need for you to do anything. We can absolutely wipe them all out, shouted Ingo, his entire body radiating a vicious aura. Chem? Gu Li's expression darkened. Don't tell me you want to disobey me? Don't get too cocky, said Jiangchen with a frown. We just called you boss. Do you really think you're our big brother? Don't forget, we're just equals, said Jiangchen with a frown. Ha! A sinister light flashed through Gu Li's eyes, but he quickly composed himself and laughed. You're right, but now's not the time to attack. I know you hate Nuwa, but she's just a spiritual body here. You can't possibly not sense it, can you? Besides, don't forget that you still need my help. You haven't forgotten, have you? Are you trying to threaten me? Snorted Jiangchen. How could I? I'm just negotiating with you. Gu Li narrowed his eyes, then laughed. Of course, I can't rule out the possibility that she's a threat to you. The four zombie progenitors' expressions darkened. After a moment's hesitation, Jiangchen said, If you don't want to attack, then don't. If you don't want to, then don't. Isn't that more like it? If you still want to, you'd be better off listening to me. Gu Li pressed his lips into a smile, then turned to Yi Zichen and the others. I'm truly sorry to have let you witness such a scene. All right, I won't disturb you any longer. If fate wills it, we'll meet again. To tell the truth, just now, Yi Zichen had been hoping the zombie progenitors would betray him and kill Gu Li in a fit of rage. However, in the end, they'd chosen to obey him. In that case, Gu Li definitely had something they had no choice but to obey. In that case... Wait a moment, said Yi Zichen suddenly. Gu Li, who was just about to leave, turned around and arched his brows. Is there something else? Shouldn't you be hoping I'd hurry up and leave? Some grudges, if accumulated for too long, can make a person ill. Yi Zichen narrowed his eyes. I stopped you because I wanted to. I just wanted to ask you. Let's fight one-on-one, just the two of us. Let's settle our personal grudges. Do you dare? The moment he'd drawn his sword, it meant he couldn't hold back any longer. Now, he couldn't just let Gu Li leave. One-on-one? Chapter 790. The Art of Dragon Slaying You? With me? No matter how you looked at it, Gu Li's eyes were filled with disdain. He arched his brows, smirked, and nodded. All right, I'll satisfy you. When? Now. Yi Zichen's eyes were filled with rage and battle intent. He didn't know why, but whenever he saw Guli, he couldn't control his anger. "Right now, you and me. No one else will interfere." The sudden scene stunned everyone around them. Lady Nuwa frowned slightly and looked at the two of them a few times. She'd wanted to dissuade him, but when she saw Yi Zichen's expression, she swallowed her words. "It sounds like it's good for you, but I agree." Guli rubbed his temples, then pushed aside the hair covering his eyes. His pitch-black eyes flashed with a sinister smile. "If I can get rid of you here, my future development will be much easier. Let's talk about it after you finish me off." Buzz. Yi Zichen let go of his long sword and ran towards Guli. As he did so, he formed a series of hand seals and released the spiritual energy within his body. The violent spiritual power rolled up the snow on the ground, and the suffocating spiritual power pressure was released with him as the center. When did he become so strong? Behind them, Su Luer didn't hesitate at all. She summoned a barrier and enveloped Su Yen and Su Zhu within. Under such pressure, people like them who were comparable to heaven immortals would definitely explode and die. Executioner's snow sword. Snowflakes danced in the air. Just like Su Luer's world of ice and snow, snowflakes drifted down from the sky. The blade above his head spun and created a vortex. Snowflakes coiled around the vortex, and an ice crystal sword slowly appeared from the vortex. 6 fiery swords. Just as the ice crystal sword appeared, heavenly fire fell from the sky and a flaming sword pierced through the air. These 2 sword skills were Earth-grade spiritual skills that he had obtained from the Yellow Emperor's memories. However, because the 2 of them could work together, its true power was no weaker than a heaven-grade spiritual skill. Although this was his first time using it after reincarnation, Yi Zichen was still able to use it with ease. Yin and Yang, interesting. Not far away, Guli stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at the 2 oppressive swords with admiration. He nodded and smiled from time to time, looking calm and composed. When he saw Guli's arrogance, Yi Zichen laughed as well. Set. Fixed body art. Not far away, Guli froze in place. Yi Zichen no longer hesitated. He slashed out with both swords he'd long since prepared. Swoosh. 2 rays of light, one blue and one red, streaked across the sky. But at that moment Guli smiled. "And here I was wondering what kind of tricks you could pull off. The body freezing spell. Laughable." Guli, who should have frozen Yi Zichen in place, smiled and shook his head, then calmly reached out his hands. He grabbed the ice and fire swords with both hands and squeezed them to death. Ice crystals fell to the ground, accompanied by sparks. Guli looked meaningfully at Yi Zichen, only to see that Yi Zichen was smiling at him. Something's not right. Guli's heart trembled inexplicably. Xianyuan sword. He looked up at Yi Zichen's head, but the Xianyuan sword had already disappeared. At that moment, he noticed that, at some unknown time, countless irregular snowflakes had appeared in front of him. Myriad mysterious concealed swords. Yi Zichen suddenly roared. In an instant, the snowflakes in front of Guli transformed into illusory swords and shot towards him. 72 transformations. Guli cursed inwardly. He hadn't expected Yi Zichen to use the 72 transformations here. Since the illusory swords were too close, it was already too late for him to retreat. He had no choice but to protect his vitals and forcefully endure the myriad mysterious concealed swords. Slash. 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 The sword shadows kept stabbing into his body. Blood splattered onto the snowy ground and turned into flowers of blood. But that wasn't the end. Azure Dragon goes to sea. Roar. An azure dragon's roar shook the entire valley. The illusory image of an azure dragon suddenly appeared on the blade of the Xianyuan sword, which hovered in the sky. The dragon opened its mouth wide and roared as it descended from the sky. Guli, who just barely managed to block the myriad mysterious concealed swords, took the attack head-on. He could no longer hold back the sweetness in his throat. With a muffled grunt, he coughed up blood uncontrollably. Ugh! Ghoulie knelt to the ground in agony, his eyes bulging as he coughed up mouthfuls of blood. Is that really him? Su Luer couldn't help but be astonished. At first, she'd been worried that Yi Zichen would be at a disadvantage. She'd even transmitted to Nuwa that if they really couldn't beat him, they'd step in. But now, Yi Zichen had the absolute advantage. Inexplicably, both she and Nuwa locked their gazes on the zombie progenitors. Since they'd decided to help, then, they didn't seem to have any intention of attacking. From their expressions, Su Luer and Nuwa could see. Cold. Yi Zichen's combo hit its mark, but he didn't say anything to taunt them. If he said anything now, he'd be giving Ghoulie a chance to catch his breath. Villains died from talking too much. This was something he'd learned from years of watching TV shows. He wanted to kill Ghoulie, not make fun of him. Yi Zichen narrowed his eyes. Golden light surrounded Yi Zichen, and the illusory image of a golden dragon appeared behind him. The dragon's eyes widened, and an aura of disdain and arrogance radiated outwards. Before long, the azure dragon let out a mournful cry and dove into the Xianyuan sword. The Xianyuan sword hovered in midair, radiating golden light. Xianyuan dragon slaying art. This sword technique was created purely by the Yellow Emperor, the Xianyuan clan. He'd comprehended it while forging the Xianyuan sword. When the Xianyuan sword was forged, it had no sharpness whatsoever. Back then, the dragons had researched it thoroughly and discovered that the only way to sharpen the Xianyuan sword was to slay a dragon. To use the hot blood of a dragon to sharpen the blade. Those who slayed dragons also had to be the wielder of this divine artifact. So long as the wielder truly slayed a dragon, then the divine artifact would forever recognize only one master. This was why, no matter how many lives the Yellow Emperor had reincarnated, the Xianyuan sword had been ownerless for so long. In the end, it could only be the Yellow Emperor's weapon. It recognized only one master, and that was the Yellow Emperor. The azure dragon's mournful cry was deafening. Yi Zichen's eyes flashed with golden light. Descend. The Xianyuan dragon slaying art. His strongest sword technique. Ghoulie knelt on the ground. His pupils twitched violently. Just now, the azure dragon had left him heavily injured, but now... The azure dragon roared, and the mournful cry of the blade, splat, pierced through. A bloody, bull-sized hole appeared in Ghoulie's chest. His eyes widened, and he clutched his bleeding chest unwillingly. It was over. Everything was over. Releasing a high-intensity release sword skill was a great test for both spiritual power and mental energy. Yi Zichen let out a long sigh. Just when he thought it was all over. Ghoulie's eyes glazed over. He suddenly grabbed the trembling Xianyuan sword, and purple mist began to seep out of the hole in his chest. Chapter 791. Big Sister Xiang, help me just one more time. Chi. Ghoulie's eyes blazed with purple flames. His pierced chest stopped bleeding. Unbearably nauseating purple mist seeped out of his chest and into the outside world. Before long, the mist completely enveloped the Nine-Tailed Fox clan's rear mountain. The mist continued to spread. The Nine-Tailed Fox clansmen were either cleaning up the battlefield or surrounding other zombies. After inhaling the mist, their pupils turned pitch black. Long black lines crawled over their eye sockets. Blood spurted out, and they clutched their chests as if they were suffocating, then collapsed to the ground in agony. Su Yen and Su Zhu were currently tending to Fatty Yin, as well as the heavily injured and unconscious Yuan Hong. After inhaling the mist, their faces contorted in pain. Their bodies writhed in agony. Their situation was far from good. This isn't ordinary demonic energy. Lady Nuwa waved her hand, creating a vacuum. At the same time, she transmitted to the others. Everyone, come in. The Su sisters hurriedly carried the injured over. Lady Nuwa took out 2 pills and stuffed them into Yuan Hong's and Fatty Yin's mouth. Lady Nuwa, this mist. As soon as Su Luer opened her mouth, Lady Nuwa cut her off, then handed her, Su Yen and Su Zhu each a pill. Don't talk. Eat this. The women nodded and popped the pills into their mouth. Then Su Luer glanced at Lady Nuwa. This mist should be the demon realm's unique demonic energy. Actually, demonic energy isn't particularly harmful to cultivators. At most, they'll feel a sense of resistance. However, this youth's demonic energy is poisonous. Poisonous. Su Luer's expression froze, then she tried to run outside. What are you doing? Shouted Nuwa, grabbing Su Luer by the arm. This is the safest place. My clansmen, my clansmen! Su Luer was extremely agitated. The demonic energy had already spread to the outside world, so her clansmen must have inhaled it as well. So what? Lady Nuwa's tone was very resolute as she said, just now, you already breathed in the nether demonic chi. The only reason you're able to stand here safely is because of that pill. Now, stay here and focus on expelling the poison from your body. As for your clansmen, they can only pray for themselves. Goddess Nuwa's expression darkened as she spoke. It would have been better if the nine-tailed fox clansmen had sensed the toxicity of the demonic aura in advance and held their breath. If not, then it could only be said that this was their fate. It is I, the clan leader, who did not protect them well. Su Luer gritted her teeth and sat on the ground. Su Zhu hugged her shoulders and comforted her. After relying on each other for so long, the two sisters should be the most familiar with each other. As the head of the clan, Su Luer had always put on a tough front, but in her heart, she had always been a tough person. Sometimes, he was more fragile than anyone else. She had always placed the nine-tailed fox clan in the most important position, and everything she did was for the sake of her clan. But now, Lady Nuwa. At that moment, Su Yen walked over and looked worriedly at Yi Zichen, who stood in the middle of the mist. That Zichen, he. Lady Nuwa glanced at Yi Zichen and sighed softly. Even if he sensed it, it's already too late. All we can do now is trust in him. He has a way to deal with this. I never would have guessed that in just a few months your cultivation would reach such a level. Guli gripped the Xianyuan sword and rose to his feet. Purple flames blazed in his eyes, and black lines crawled over his eye sockets. His skin had darkened, and the hole in his chest had already healed. He now looked just like an abyssal, but unlike an abyssal, he could control his own consciousness. Buzz! The Xianyuan sword trembled violently as it tried to break free. Guli glanced coolly at the blade in his hand. What a loyal blade! If only the Chiyu sword had even the slightest bit of your loyalty. He smiled calmly and let go. The instant he did, the Xianyuan sword transformed into a beam of light and returned to Yi Zichen. The blade circled around him, swinging back and forth as if asking him how he was doing. Humph! Yi Zichen let out a muffled grunt, then blood dripped from his nostrils to the ground. Thud! Thud! Cough! Yi Zichen hurriedly covered his mouth. When he opened his hands, he saw faint golden blood in his palms. Kid, are you all right? Xianyuan Xiang called out anxiously. After a full 15 minutes, Yi Zichen stabilized his condition, reached out, grabbed the hilt of the Xianyuan sword, and propped himself up. Cough. This time, he coughed up a mouthful of golden blood without any attempt to hide it. Yi Zichen's eyes reddened and his body swayed. Even so, he tossed the Xianyuan sword high into the air and began forming hand seals. Kid, you've gone mad! The Xianyuan sword roared angrily. Even in this situation, he was still forming hand seals. The hand seals of the Xianyuan dragon slaying art. You really don't know when to give up. Don't you know that if I wanted to take your life, all I had to do was move a finger? Besides, in your current state, what else do you think you can do? Rumble. As he formed hand seals, Yi Zichen's aura surged, and his swaying body straightened. A wisp of golden light ignited between his eyebrows. When he saw this, Yi Zichen, stop. At practically the same time, two transmissions rang out in his mind. One came from Xianyuan Xiang, while the other came from Lady Nuwa, who'd been paying close attention to the situation. Why did he, who should have been a candle in the wind, suddenly recover like the final radiance of a setting sun? How did that ball of flame appear between his eyebrows? He was burning his natal true flame. Kid, you can't do this. I've waited 10,000 years. Do you want me to lose my master again? Do you want me to wait 10,000 more years for you? Don't you know that a woman's youth is priceless? Hurry up and stop, Xianyuan Xiang shouted in his mind. However, Yi Zichen pursed his lips and smiled. Big Sister Xiang, help me one more time. Xianyuan Xiang, who'd been trembling and shouting, suddenly stopped. She stared blankly at Yi Zichen's pleading gaze. Back then, it was just like this. You're the master, so what you say goes. In any case, I've already waited half a year. I'm already a faded flower. If worst comes to worst, I'll just wait another 10,000 years. Ha! The golden fire between his eyebrows suddenly spread throughout Yi Zichen's entire body. The golden flames were dazzling. The surrounding purple mist was swallowed up by the golden flames, and the illusory image of an azure dragon burrowed into the Xianyuan sword. Chapter 792. Abyssal Fusion. As Yi Zichen formed his final hand seal, the flames surrounding him gradually dimmed. The azure dragon wailed mournfully, and so did the Xianyuan sword. Go! Yi Zichen reached out weakly. The sword's spirit, Xianyuan Xiang, looked at him solemnly. Then, a single tear fell uncontrollably from her eyes. I, Xianyuan Xiang, obey my lord's instructions and execute a sword technique. Xianyuan dragon-slaying art. Roar! A mournful wail emanated from Xianyuan's sword's blade. An illusory azure dragon appeared, roaring as it charged at Gu Li. You accompany him in death. The sword spirit Xianyuan Xiang burst into tears as she shouted. Her sword also buzzed. Wherever it passed, a strong gust of wind would rise. A beam of golden light tore through the air, heading straight for Gu Li's calm expression. Slash! Golden light, seemingly capable of splitting the heavens, erupted from Xianyuan's sword. The light devoured all things, annihilating everything within 100 meters. The golden light was so dazzling that everyone closed their eyes. Only Gu Li stared straight ahead at the golden light, the corners of his mouth curling into a smile. It's the same move, but this time, the blade itself is suffused with grief and anger. The sword technique's power has increased severalfold. It's mighty and powerful. It seems you want to use this move to decide victory. Boom! Sword light swallowed Gu Li whole. Not only that, but the entire nine-tailed fox clan's rear mountain was flattened. Violent spiritual power wreaked havoc. This time, even though the zombie progenitors had set up defensive barriers around them, this clash. They had no choice but to deal with it carefully. It's over, said Xianyuan Xiang. Yes, it's over. Yi Zichen smiled and nodded. After the sword light swallowed Gu Li, he could no longer sense his aura. It was all over. How much longer can you live? I'm not sure. I'll live as long as I can, laughed Yi Zichen carelessly. That depends on when the heavens will take me in. Hearing his indifferent tone, Xianyuan Xiang couldn't help but cry. The explosion had dispersed all of Gu Li's demonic energy. Lady Nuwa and the others ran out. Nephew, don't talk. Take your medicine. Goddess Nuwa took out a pill and stuffed it into his mouth without any explanation. This pill was very expensive, and even she felt her heart ache a little. However, Yi Zichen had just ignited his natal flame, so she had no choice but to hold herself back. Zichen. Tears continuously flowed from Su Yan's eyes. Yi Zichen pursed his lips and smiled at her, wiping away her tears. Why are you crying? Aren't I still alive? I've finally killed that bastard, and I've settled one of my worries. You should be happy for me. Yes, I'm happy for you. Su Yan sobbed and nodded, then held on to Yi Zichen's hand for a long time, unwilling to let go. Will I ruin the atmosphere if I come out now? Just then, a lazy laugh rang in everyone's ears. Yi Zichen's pupils twitched as he looked into the distance. I'm sorry, should I pretend to be dead and wait for you guys to leave before coming out? This will make you feel better. But then again, I just love to see annoying people in despair. Gu Li's gray wings flapped incessantly. He narrowed his eyes and rubbed his chest. The Xianyuan dragon-slaying art had indeed injured him. The horrifying wound on his chest was the most direct proof. However, not a single drop of blood flowed out of his wound, and it was healing at a rate visible to the naked eye. "You're not human," said Yi Zichen with a frown. "Hey, why are you cursing me?" Gu Li smiled playfully. "You're an abyssal," said Yi Zichen, taking the Xianyuan sword and rising to his feet. "You fused with an abyssal? Bingo, you're right. I didn't think you'd be so smart. You even saw through this." Gu Li's eyes brimmed with smiles. He flapped his wings and landed nearby. "This is the result of half a year of research. I transformed my own body into an abyssal's body and strengthened its healing abilities. What do you think? It's the work of a genius, isn't it? You guys go." As Gu Li spoke confidently, Yi Zichen transmitted to Lady Nuwa and the others. "Do you think we're the kind of people who fear death?" Su Luer frowned. Lady Nuwa transmitted back. "There are still 4 zombie progenitors on the other side. If we leave, you'll undoubtedly die." "Do you really think this isn't a hopeless situation?" Yi Zichen knit his brows. That freak Gu Li actually fused an abyssal into his body. He's now half unkillable. Damn it, if I'd known earlier, I wouldn't have challenged him to a duel. But the situation is already like this. Everything started because of me. You guys go. I'll bring up the rear. "What nonsense are you spouting?" shouted Su Luer. "You guys." Just as Yi Zichen was arguing with Su Luer and the others, Gu Li, who was flapping his wings, pursed his lips into a smile. "There's no need to put on an act here." With that, he snapped his fingers at the zombie progenitors. "Haven't you always wanted to fight Nuwa and the others? Fine, let's just kill them all." When they heard that, the zombie progenitors grinned strangely. They were on the verge of exploding. "Yi Zichen, oh Yi Zichen, is there something wrong with your brain?" When he saw this, Yi Zichen couldn't help but curse inwardly. He should have just let Gu Li go, but he insisted on fighting him one-on-one. Now, he was going to fucking leave them all behind. "Don't just stand there. This isn't the time for that," transmitted Lady Nuwa into his sea of consciousness. Lady Nuwa transmitted into his sea of consciousness. "Leave the zombie progenitors to us. As for Gu Li, I leave him to you. I sent word to the people of the Buddhist domain a long time ago. They should be arriving soon." "The Buddhist domain? Tathagata?" Yi Zichen's eyelids twitched. "I don't know who they'll send either. In any case, we just have to hold out a little longer and we'll be fine." "Then why didn't you say so earlier?" Yi Zichen transmitted back. Then he tightened his grip on the Xianyuan sword and snorted at Gu Li, who stood 100 meters away. "Abyssal self-healing abilities aren't limitless, right? Even if you've strengthened them, it's still the same, isn't it?" Gu Li chuckled and nodded, but inwardly, he felt rather strange. How could he still laugh at a time like this? Could it be that he'd lost all hope of turning the tables and had gone mad? What nonsense! Even Gu Li himself wouldn't believe such a thing. The only explanation was, he still had a backup plan. In a situation where they had an absolute advantage, what other tricks could he have up his sleeve? Helpers? It was no exaggeration to say that no one in the 3 realms was a match for him and the 4 zombie progenitors. Wait. There was still one more place. Chapter 793. Death? Then come back to life. A monk in a kasaya stood in the sky above the 9-tailed fox clan. Lady Providence stood in his way. "Lady Benefactor, you've already blocked my way for an hour. When will you let me go?" "When the time is right, I will naturally let you go. However, now is not the time." Lady Providence's expression was calm. From their position, they could see the situation in the back mountains of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. I'm here on the Buddha's orders to assist Lady Niwa. You've blocked my way. That's unreasonable, said the monk with a frown. An hour ago, the Buddha had told him to come here. Just as he was about to get there, the woman had stopped him. The situation below was dire. He urgently wanted to go down and help. However, the Buddha had warned him that if someone blocked his way, he couldn't rashly provoke them. Could it be that the Buddha had predicted that someone would block his way? The monk didn't understand. I naturally have my reasons for not letting you go down. There's a great opportunity waiting for the people down there. If you go down and ruin it, you won't be able to bear the responsibility. Lady Providence said indifferently, then arched her brows. I still don't know your Taoist name. De Yong, said the monk. So it's Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva. Forgive me for my rudeness. Lady Providence smiled at the monk. The Buddha of Western Paradise sent you here with good intentions, but please wait a bit longer. When the time is right, I will naturally let you go down. Buddha is merciful. Could it be that you want me to watch them die down there? Bodhisattva, just keep watching. Ding, ding, ding. Guli closed his wings and brushed aside Yi Zichen's fire sword and cruel snow sword. His expression was sinister, but he smiled playfully. Do you think I'll suffer the same fate as before? He reached out and grabbed at the air. An enormous palm appeared in front of him and crushed the myriad mysterious concealed swords afterimages. Ha! Yi Zichen naturally didn't think he'd fall for it again. All he wanted was to buy time. Lady Niwa had said the Buddhist domain would send someone over. Yi Zichen didn't doubt her words in the slightest. However, it had already been an hour. Why was there still no sign of the ancestral Buddha? Could it be that the Western Pure Land of ultimate bliss was too far away from here, and it would take some time to fly over? Dong. The loud noise attracted Yi Zichen's attention. He turned around and saw Su Lu descend from the sky. Hidarigami, who was not far away, immediately rushed in front of her the moment she landed. His arm was torn off. Unable to endure the pain, Su Lu screamed. When Yi Zichen saw this, his eyes instantly reddened. Bastard! He wanted to rush over and help, but Guli stood in his way. Scram! Sword shakes the 8 desolates. Ding ding ding. The sword energy did not leave any mark on Guli's wings. Yi Zichen clenched his teeth and made up his mind. Xian Yuan, plop. Just as he was about to form a seal, his chest suddenly shrank. Humph! He panted heavily, and his body began to sweat uncontrollably. Not long after, his whole body was drenched in sweat, as if he had just been fished out of water. Bang! He fell to the ground. Yi Zichen knit his brows and clutched his chest. His heart felt as if someone were squeezing it. It was agonizing. His body rolled over and over. When Xianyuan Xiang saw this, she left the sword and ran to his side. Little Yi. Big sister Xiang. Yi Zichen's eyes were bloodshot. He struggled to reach out, the veins in his neck bulging. I feel so bad. You were fine just now, how could? Halfway through her sentence, Xianyuan Xiang stopped, her pupils twitching. Could it be that I burned my natal flame just now and my lifespan is up? As she considered this, Xianyuan Xiang reached out and hugged Yi Zichen's head. Yi Zichen, hold on. You're the Yellow Emperor. You can't just die like this. I feel so bad. Yi Zichen's voice was hoarse. He felt as if someone were crushing his heart. This feeling was already threatening to take his life. His breathing grew ragged. Xianyuan Xiang hugged him, her face filled with anxiety, but she didn't know what to do. Please don't die. Please don't die. TCH, it seems you've reached the end of your lifespan. Guli snorted. He'd seen Yi Zichen burn his natal flame earlier. You burned your natal flame just to kill me, but I never would have guessed you'd be the one to die. How pitiful. Shut up. Xianyuan Xiang rebuked him angrily. However, she was currently in sword spirit form. Gu Li couldn't see or hear her at all. You've reached the end of your lifespan. Out of consideration for our past friendship, I can't let you die in such pain. How about this? I'll give you a quick death. No need to thank me. Buzz. As Gu Li stepped forward, the Xianyuan sword lying by Yi Zichen's side suddenly flew into the air. Xianyuan Xiang was currently in complete control of the Xianyuan sword. She wouldn't allow Gu Li to harm Yi Zichen. You're quite loyal. Gu Li sneered disdainfully, then reached out and grabbed the Xianyuan sword's blade. Without a master, how much of your power can you wield? You're nothing but a pile of scrap metal in front of me, yet you want to stop me? But your master is about to die, so there's no point in keeping your sword. You might as well leave with him. Ding. The sword shattered. Gu Li forcibly snapped the Xianyuan sword in two. A pile of scrap metal. Gu Li casually tossed the broken pieces to the ground. Yi Zichen watched everything unfold with his own eyes. Big Sister Xiang. Lady Benefactor, this humble monk can't wait any longer. The great strength Bodhisattva was just about to step forward, but Lady Providence pointed forward, and a wall instantly blocked his path. We're at a critical juncture. How could I possibly let you ruin it? Then her gaze landed on Yi Zichen, and she frowned. Brat, this is your opportunity. You have to seize it. As he watched the Xianyuan sword shatter, Yi Zichen's fury burned even hotter. As his fury overtook him, the pain in his heart grew even more intense. Harder, harder. That pair of invisible hands squeezed his heart forcefully, until, bang, it shattered. The instant his heart shattered, Yi Zichen's pain vanished. His hands fell limply to the ground, and his eyes dimmed. Lady Benefactor, roared the great strength Bodhisattva. Stay here obediently, shouted Lady Providence, but her gaze was fixed on the distant sky. It's coming. It's about time. Dead? How pitiful. Gu Li looked down at the lifeless Yi Zichen with a mocking smile. But do you really think I'll let you die so easily? How about, I cut you into pieces? As he spoke, Gu Li reached out, but then, a hand suddenly grabbed his arm. Yi Zichen, who'd been lying dead on the ground, opened his eyes. Chapter 794. Divine bestowal come back from the dead? Gu Li knit his brows and looked at Yi Zichen, who'd just opened his eyes. To his surprise, he sensed terror in them. Ridiculous! He roared angrily. Since Yi Zichen had grabbed his arms, he had no choice but to stomp down. You're already dead. Don't try to scare me. Bang. His right foot stomped hard on the ground, causing it to crack. But Yi Zichen was nowhere to be seen. He looked around in bewilderment, then realized that Yi Zichen was crouching in front of the shattered Xianyuan sword. Big Sister Xiang, you've worked hard. A beam of light appeared in his hands. He grasped the sword's broken edges with both hands and closed them. Rest well. Leave this to me. Yi Zichen had actually healed a broken divine artifact with his bare hands. Gu Li's pupils twitched violently, then a sinister glint flashed through his eyes. You're just pretending to be mysterious. Die. Ha! He opened his mouth wide. He spat out a cloud of poisonous purple mist. In the blink of an eye, it enveloped Yi Zichen. Humph! Die! Do you really think this little bit of poison can do anything to me? At that moment, the surrounding poison began to converge. Before long, Gu Li watched as Yi Zichen swallowed all the poison he'd spat out. His body stiffened. He'd actually swallowed all the demonic energy. Swallowing mountains and rivers really is useful. I didn't learn this move from that bastard for nothing. After swallowing the demonic energy, Yi Zichen pursed his lips as if savoring its flavor. You're not Yi Zichen. Who the hell are you? Gu Li could no longer remain calm. There was no way anyone in the three realms could remain unscathed after absorbing his demonic energy. Not to mention that it had devoured all of his devil chi. Yi Zichen's eyes flickered with terror. He smiled calmly and reached behind him. A ray of golden light appeared in his palm. Hanba, one of the zombie progenitors, sensed the golden light and roared. HM? Hidorigami received a warning from her teammates and wanted to dodge, but the golden light had already locked onto her. Boom. The golden light landed heavily on Hidorigami's body, and a frightening bloody hole appeared on her chest. Next, a bubble appeared around Su Luer and Lady Nuwa, enveloping them within. Leave this place to me. A transmission entered their minds. Su Yen immediately rushed over to Su Luer's side to treat her severed arm, while Lady Nuwa glanced at Yi Zichen. His pupils were twitching. This is... God descends. Drought demon. Ho Qing and the others rushed in front of Hanba. Jiangchen frowned at Yi Zichen and roared, "Brat, are you provoking me?" "Provoke? You?" All Yi Zichen did was turn around and glare at him, but Jiangchen felt his blood churn. He coughed up a mouthful of blood. "If you were still the vicious beast from back then, I might be interested in playing with you. But now, you are merely a body maintained by a divine branch, yet you still dare to spout nonsense in front of me. Do you think you are worthy? You deserve it too. To dare say such things to the Denglong, a primordial vicious beast? What kind of courage was this?" Jiangchen clutched his chest, his eyes trembling. Yi Zichen had only glanced at him, yet he'd injured his very core. What on earth had he gone through? "Guli, in truth, I should be thanking you. If it weren't for you, I might not even have been able to take that final step." Yi Zichen looked away, then smiled. Not far away, Guli looked ahead vigilantly, then arched his brows. "You broke through? That shouldn't be the case. Even if he'd broken through, he'd only be a supreme. After fusing with the Abyssals, he was no weaker than a supreme. However, he could sense that the gap between them was as wide as the distance between heaven and earth. What on earth was going on? Broke through? If you put it that way, it's not bad," said Yi Zichen with a calm smile. "But the only difference is that I've become a god." Whoosh! A beam of multicolored light bathed Yi Zichen's head. He enjoyed the sensation as it seeped into his body. Then, dong, dong, dong. The heavenly court, the underworld, and the immortal region. A melodious bell rang out. When the higher-ups of the three realms heard it, they all rose to their feet in astonishment. They were all counting how many times the bell had rung. Dong, 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 dong. 9 rings. As soon as the bell stopped ringing, a few petite figures flitted past the heavenly court. All-seeing eyes, go see if that's the three-legged bluebird. When he heard the bell, the North Pole Emperor rose to his feet. He'd been guarding the cloudy palace of the Golden Arches for a while, then took a few steps forward, his eyes flashing. "Your Majesty, it really is the three-legged bluebird." Before Clairvoyant had even finished speaking, the North Pole Emperor immediately summoned a cloud and chased after him. When the immortals in the cloudy palace of the Golden Arches saw this, they hesitated for a moment. "Your Majesty, what's going on?" The ancient bell tolled 9 times, and the three-legged bluebirds sang in joy. It seems someone's descended into divinity. At the same time, the underworld and immortal region reacted similarly. When the bell stopped ringing, they all turned to look at the heavenly court. The three-legged bluebird, as expected. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 3 realms were in turmoil. Immortals of all realms chased after the three-legged bluebird just to catch a glimpse of the divine. Dong. The sound of the bell reverberated throughout the 3 realms. Even the endless beast region could hear it. Divinity bestowal. The great strength Bodhisattva arched his brows. Given his experience, there was no way he wouldn't know that this was a sign of divinity bestowal. However, since the birth of the 3 realms, there had never been a divinity bestowal. Even for him, this was his first time seeing one. Inexplicably, he glanced at Lady Providence. Could it be that this female benefactor already knew? Amitba. "Benefactor, you're so powerful," said the great strength Bodhisattva. "Fortunately, benefactor, you stopped me. Otherwise, I would have lost a great opportunity." If that happened, I wouldn't be able to redeem myself even if I died 100 times. It's good that you understand, Bodhisattva. Lady Providence smiled and nodded. In truth, she hadn't been very confident before. Although she'd divined that this was Yi Zichen's destiny, she'd only been half right. Now that she saw that he'd truly descended into divinity, she could finally relax. Impossible. Gu Li sat paralyzed on the ground and shook his head violently. He looked at Yi Zichen, who was bathed in holy light, his eyes filled with disbelief. You can't possibly achieve divinity bestowal. You have the blood of demons in your veins. It's impossible for you to achieve divinity bestowal. It's fake, it's all fake. Do you think you can fool me with such petty tricks? Die. Gu Li leapt to his feet, stared intently at Yi Zichen's back, then swung his fist at Yi Zichen's head. Smack. Yi Zichen suddenly spun around and wrapped his arms tightly around Gu Li's neck. 3 pairs of 6-winged white wings suddenly appeared behind him. As the holy light bathed them, they glowed with holy light. Chapter 795. Heavenly Lightning Tribulation, the God Realm. Dong 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 dong. As usual, the residents of the God Realm stopped in their tracks when they heard the distant tolling of the bell. They stared intently at the same spot. Within a luxurious courtyard, 2 men in purple and blue robes were conversing. This bell is coming from Mount Pantheon. Someone's achieved divine bestowal. I know. The old man in the purple robe nodded slightly, and a sharp light flashed in his turbid eyes. Do you know which side did it? It's not someone from the God Realm. It's someone from the lower realms, said the blue-robed man. The lower realms? Let me see. With that, the elder waved his hand over the stone table. The smooth stone table suddenly transformed into a mirror, which reflected the situation of the 9-tailed fox clan. Suddenly, a dazzling ray of purple light burst forth from the mirror. After a long while, the elder came to his senses and frowned. The God Realm can't accept such good fortune. Father, then shouldn't we? The middle-aged man hesitated. The elder hesitated for a moment, then said, We can't go overboard with divine bestowal, but our Shao family is the descendant of the Lightning Emperor. We control the lightning of the 6 realms. As for divine bestowal, we'll have to undergo heavenly lightning tribulation, but the amount of lightning. I understand. We must shatter his godhead. Got it. With that, the middle-aged man left the courtyard. The old man also let out a faint sigh. Good fortune is a blessing, but ascending at a time like this is your misfortune. Child, don't blame me. You. Yi Zichen gripped his neck. That single word was squeezed out of Gu Li's throat. He grabbed Yi Zichen's arm, but Yi Zichen's arms were like iron pincers. He felt suffocated and powerless. Uprooting filth and demons is my duty as a god, but... Rumble. Thunderclouds suddenly filled the sky. Yi Zichen glanced at them coolly, then tossed Gu Li to the ground. Once I'm done with my tribulation, I'll take your dog life. As soon as he said that, Yi Zichen seemed to think of something else. Don't even think about running, you guys. Even if I'm in the middle of a tribulation, killing you is as easy as killing an ant. He flapped his pure white wings and soared into the sky. As soon as his godhead entered Yi Zichen's sea of consciousness, he knew about the God Realm. The God Tribulation only existed to cleanse the godhead and purify the God Force. It posed no threat to the God Bestowal user. Now that Yi Zichen understood, he looked up at the frightening thunderclouds and relaxed his vigilance. Swoosh! The godhead left his body. A faint golden hidden blade floated above his head. Using the sword to enter divinity? Lady Providence nodded with satisfaction and smiled. In the God Realm, sword gods were extremely rare. The sword god could be considered the god with the strongest offensive ability in the God Realm. However, compared to those special godheads, there was still a gap. However, Yi Zichen becoming a god with the sword wasn't bad at all. However, these thunderclouds, even the current sword emperor of the god world, did not have such thunderclouds when he entered the god realm. Lady Providence, what is Zichen doing? Asked Suyen. He's undergoing tribulation lightning. After he becomes a god, tribulation lightning will descend. But don't worry, the 9 bolts of heavenly lightning are just tempering his godhead. They won't harm him in the slightest, replied Lady Nuwa. I see. Despite Nuwa's words, Suyen couldn't help but worry for him. These thunderclouds were truly terrifying. Boom! Just as Lady Providence frowned, the heavenly lightning fell from the sky. Terrifying lightning descended from the sky and landed on Yi Zichen's godhead. His dim godhead suddenly seemed a bit more dazzling. Just as he'd expected, the heavenly lightning posed no threat at all. It was just pure godhead energy. There were 9 bolts of heavenly lightning in total. If they were all like this, Yi Zichen would be able to block them effortlessly. Rumble! Another bolt of heavenly lightning fell, but it didn't even scratch him. Rumble! 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 Bolt after bolt of heavenly lightning fell from the sky. The hidden blade above Yi Zichen's head grew ever more dazzling. Under the pure power of the heavenly lightning, the blade grew larger and larger. Soon, it was the size of the Xianyuan sword. It seems this heavenly lightning really is a blessing. 8 bolts have passed. All that's left is the last one. Yi Zichen looked up at the thunderclouds. White light flickered within them. It was obvious they were accumulating the last bolt of heavenly lightning. Rumble! Break! This time, Yi Zichen simply charged straight into the heavenly lightning. The golden blade pierced the heavenly lightning, accompanied by an invincible sharpness. Slash! The heavenly lightning split in half. It's finally over. I've withstood 9 bolts of heavenly lightning. Now I can be considered a true god. I've become a god of the sword. What kind of title should I give myself? Yi Zichen chuckled and tried to retract his godhead, but then he realized. The thunderclouds hadn't disappeared. After 9 bolts of heavenly lightning, the thunderclouds didn't disperse. Instead, they grew even thicker. Silver light flashed, and the clouds were as dark as ink. No wonder. Lady Providence couldn't help but mutter to herself. She'd wondered why 9 bolts of heavenly lightning caused the thunderclouds to be that color. So it turned out Yi Zichen's tribulation wasn't limited to just 9 bolts. In truth, 9 bolts was just an ordinary god. After that, there were 18 bolts, 27 bolts, 36 bolts. Eventually, there were 81 bolts. The strongest expert in the god realm, Baiyun, had withstood 81 bolts of heavenly lightning. She just didn't know that Yi Zichen's heavenly lightning descended. 18 bolts, 27 bolt, 36 bolt. Heavenly lightning descended relentlessly on Yi Zichen's godhead. Before long, there were 72 bolt. Yi Zichen stood in the sky, enduring the tribulation. He was no longer as calm and collected as before. His previously radiant, golden godhead was now extremely dim. He was bathed in blood, and his white feathers fell to the ground. Rumble! The 73rd bolt. It pierced right through his godhead and landed on Yi Zichen's body. He coughed up a mouthful of golden blood. By now, he was exhausted. Logically speaking, after 54 bolts of heavenly lightning, each bolt should have given him time to catch his breath. However, his heavenly lightning gave him no time to catch his breath. 1 bolt after another. It didn't seem like the heavenly lightning was tempering his divine power. It was trying to take his life. You want to play? Fine, I'll play with you. There are only 81 bolts in total, and I've already withstood 73. The last few bolts won't make much of a difference. Come on. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Heavenly lightning devoured his body. Yi Zichen's eyes were bloodshot. He gritted his teeth and blocked all the bolts. All of a sudden, the lightning stopped. There was only 1 bolt left. Yi Zichen took advantage of this opportunity and hurriedly took out a pill from his pocket. He didn't care what it was for. He just stuffed it into his mouth. Yi Zichen quickly recovered his spiritual energy, then looked up into the sky. Chapter 796. The 81st Bolt of Heavenly Lightning. Chapter 796. Tribulation lightning. The thunderclouds were as black as ink. The entire beast region, and even the entire three realms, felt the pressure of the thundercloud. Yi Zichen stood in the air, his godhead hovering above his head, whimpering and wailing. "Damn it, can't you be a little more stubborn?" He couldn't help but roll his eyes. This godhead was actually panicking? Rumble. Thunder rumbled through the clouds, filling the air with unending rumbles. It was clearly gathering its strength in preparation to deal Yi Zichen a final blow. 81 bolts of tribulation lightning. Heavenly lightning devours the heart. Could it be that this kid's talent is on par with Bai An's? That was the son of the dragon god all those years ago. But seeing how heaven-defying this kid's luck is, his divine tribulation definitely won't be so easy. Lady Providence thought to herself. Beside her, the great strength Bodhisattva closed his eyes and muttered to himself. However, the scriptures were so choppy that not even Lady Providence had any idea what he was muttering. "Lady Providence, didn't you say there were 9 bolts of heavenly lightning?" asked Su Yen worriedly. When she saw Yi Zichen's blood-soaked appearance, she couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. The 9 bolts of heavenly lightning only target ordinary godheads. It seems the Yellow Emperor's godhead is absolutely extraordinary. He actually had to endure 81 bolts of heavenly lightning. Heavenly lightning devours the heart. But don't worry, if he can endure 80 bolts, he can definitely endure the 81st one as well. So long as he survives it, he'll be like a carp leaping over the dragon's gate. Rumble. The thunderclouds in the void were still condensing the power of lightning, but the experts from various realms who had rushed over upon hearing the bell had all stopped outside the range of the thunderclouds. Or rather, the three-legged azure bird had stopped them. The immortals had no choice but to follow the lead of the North Pole Emperor and wait for the tribulation to disappear. Why isn't it descending yet? It's still gathering power. Does he want to kill me with this bolt of lightning? Yi Zichen couldn't help but complain. At that moment, rumble! A 10-meter-thick lightning dragon roared down from the sky. That's right, a lightning dragon. This final bolt of heavenly lightning wasn't the same as before. Instead, it condensed into a lightning dragon that roared and descended as if to devour him and his godhead. "You really want to kill me?" Yi Zichen couldn't help but curse when he saw the lightning dragon, but given the current situation, he had no choice but to face it head-on. "Godhood, you'd better hold on for me. Once we get past this lightning, we'll be able to turn from farmers to landlord." The godhead above his head shook a few times, as if nodding. It was also at this moment boom. The lightning dragon descended. Yi Zichen stood in the sky and let the lightning dragon crash into the ground. Blue and white lightning spread out in all directions, wreaking havoc in every direction. "Zichen! Stop right there." Goddess Nuwa stretched her hand out and grabbed it. Shortly after, she knitted her brows and used all her spiritual energy to resist the lightning. Pooh! She spat out a mouthful of blood and wiped the corner of her mouth with her hand. She was shocked. This is only the remnant power of the 81st lightning bolt, but it's already the strongest lightning tribulation in the god world. It really does live up to its reputation. How could it be so powerful? Lady Providence furrowed her brows. Die, die, die. You have to die. Ghoulie and the zombie progenitors cursed Yi Zichen. If he didn't die, they'd be the ones to die. The lightning clouds dispersed. After the 81st bolt of lightning, the nine-tailed fox clan's lightning vortex completely dissipated. Warm, warm sunlight shone upon the ground. The final bolt of lightning left behind a deep, charred pit. An hour had already passed. There was still no movement from within the pit. The lightning continued to wreak havoc. No one dared move, be it within the clouds or the battlefield. However, all of their gazes were fixed on the same spot. Zichen. Su Yan's expression was filled with worry. She tried to go over several times, but Lady Nuwa held her back. An hour had passed. An hour had already passed. Humph, he's definitely dead. God General, even if you really did become a god, so what? Didn't you still get killed by the lightning tribulation? After an hour of silence, Guli no longer looked nervous. On the contrary, he was rather pleased with himself. All he had to do now was wait for the lightning to dissipate. Then he could take the zombie progenitors back with him. Of course, before he returned, he could kill Nuwa and the others and collect some interest. Another quarter of an hour passed by. Haha, he's definitely dead. Guli laughed wantonly. The zombie progenitors smiled as well. When Su Yan heard his wanton laughter, she instantly roared, "All of you, shut up! Shut up! Zichen won't die. TCH, it's been almost 2 hours. He still hasn't come out. If he's not dead, then what is?" Guli couldn't help but sneer. "Little girl, don't feel bad. Once the lightning dissipates, I'll send you to meet him." "Shut up, shut up, shut up!" Su Yan roared, her eyes bloodshot. Guli simply smiled calmly. There was no point in arguing, was there? Lady Benefactor, this. Up in the sky, the Bodhisattva of great strength frowned. He'd never seen lightning tribulation before and had no idea what the situation was like. He could only ask for guidance. Wait a moment. Lady Providence knit her brows. To tell the truth, she'd probed Yi Zichen's aura. However, she hadn't found him. However, she didn't believe Yi Zichen had died to the lightning tribulation. Faced with this dilemma, she could only wait. Cough, cough, cough. A sudden cough broke the silence. Yi Zichen's hair stood on end as he crawled out of the pit the lightning dragons had created. His entire body was charred black. The feathers on his back were no longer as white as before. Now it was a bit yellow. Why, it really almost killed me. Yi Zichen lay on the ground, his charred body panting heavily. Before long, a golden sword emerged from the pit. The sword trembled incessantly, as if trying to shake off the charred remains. "Brother, we've just survived a calamity, right?" The golden sword swayed back and forth, as if nodding. When she saw him, Su Yan's tears turned to laughter. Lady Nuwa and Lady Providence let out long sighs of relief. "Amitba," sighed the Bodhisattva of great strength. They were relieved, but Guli and the others. How is this possible? Guli's expression was blank as he plopped to the ground. The lightning hadn't killed him. "It's over, it's all over." The zombie progenitors' faces were ashen. If Yi Zichen hadn't died, then they would. Ouch! Yi Zichen stretched lazily, then leaped to his feet. He smiled genially at Su Yan, then walked over to Guli, his expression cold. Chapter 797. Another one. The Shao family in the God world. Ta ta ta. Hurried footsteps sounded from the courtyard. Old Master Shao, who was leisurely sipping his tea, glanced at the newcomer. "You're the head of a family now. Why are you still so immature?" "Husband." The one who spoke was the middle-aged man from before. He frowned deeply and cupped his hands. "I didn't manage to accomplish the task you gave me." Lightning flashed in the old man's eyes as he stared at the middle-aged man. "What's wrong? Could it be that his godhead hasn't shattered yet?" "Yes. When the world was created, the Shao family was born out of thin air. Ever since the first generation of the clan was born, the clan had controlled the lightning tribulations of the 6 realms. The middle-aged man was the 9th head of the family. The old man was the famous heavenly lightning emperor of the god realm, Shao Ting. It was impossible to tell Shao Ting's age. All they knew was that, in the god realm, he was considered a great senior. In fact, with his situation, it was not a problem for him to continue to be the family head. It was just that he was tired of power and wanted to spend his later years leisurely. At the same time, he wanted to give the younger generation of the clan a chance, so he gave the position of emperor to his 3rd son, the current head of the Xiao family, Xiao Yan. Lightning pools. The rumbling power of lightning spread across this space that was millions of hectares in size. Tens of thousands of clan members stood around the pool of lightning, and they were sending down lightning punishments for all the realms. There was no need to salute when lightning was summoned. This was a rule of the Xiao family that had been passed down since ancient times. Even if the people who had summoned lightning saw Xiao Ting and Xiao Yan, they still ignored them. "Father, look." Xiao Yan pointed at a silhouette within the lightning pool. Emperor Heavenly Lightning glanced at the lightning pool, then said, "You're not the only one. How many bolts of lightning did you give him?" "I didn't add any thunder." Xiao Yan frowned. When the child ascended to godhood, there were 81 bolts of heavenly lightning. "I can't add any more." 81. Xiao Ting didn't care about his status. When the others heard this, they couldn't help but be visibly moved. "It's actually 81 bolts of heavenly lightning. Could it be that this kid's talent has actually reached the level of Swanee? How did he become a deity?" "Sword." The old man fell silent. Xiao Yan looked at the old man for a while, then said, "Father, what should I do now? After enduring the heavenly lightning, it won't be long before he ascends, but the current situation. You are now the head of the Xiao family. How can you be so flustered?" Xiao Ting furrowed his brows and berated him. Xiao Yan hurriedly lowered his head, but before long, his father spoke again. "This kid definitely can't ascend to godhood. Continue." "What? I told you to continue." "Continue?" Xiao Yan glared at him. "Father, ever since the heavens and earth were created, 81 bolts of heavenly lightning have always been the limit. Everyone in the 6 realms knows this. If the people of the 6 realms find out, what will happen to our Xiao family? My Xiao family controls the lightning tribulation of the 6 realms. We can send as much lightning as we want. That's not something those idle people can gossip about. I'd like to see who dares to speak ill of my Xiao family." As he spoke, Xiao Ting unleashed his full power. Even Xiao Yan, the former head of the family, couldn't help but shudder at his unstoppable drive. Since his father said so, he made up his mind. "Lightning? How is this possible? How could you possibly survive?" Gu Li's eyes were filled with panic. He stared in terror at Yi Zichen, who was smiling calmly. 81 bolts of heavenly lightning. There's no way you could have survived. It seems you want me to do it myself. Yi Zichen ignored him and took a few steps forward. As he took a step forward, Gu Li inched backwards. "Impossible, I don't believe it." Gu Li suddenly flapped his wings and tried to flee. "You still want to run?" Yi Zichen raised his hand and pressed Gu Li to the ground. "You think you can run from me?" From that one move, Gu Li could feel the true difference between them. If he couldn't run, then... Thud. Gu Li knelt to the ground and banged his head on the ground. His eyes were bloodshot, and his hair was drenched in sweat. "Brother Yi, Emperor Yi, let me go. I know I was in the wrong, but I was instigated by someone else. It was the Qiyu sword. He said I was the reincarnation of Qiyu and instilled in me that I had to be your enemy, that we couldn't coexist. In truth, it was all his fault. If it weren't for him, how could I possibly have become your enemy? I was wrong. I shouldn't have listened to slander so easily. The zombie progenitors harmed your friends. If you kill them, I don't think I'll stop you. I can atone for my previous mistakes. All you have to do is nod your head." Gu Li knelt on the ground, kowtowing so hard his forehead was covered in blood. He was so nervous that his voice trembled as he spoke. "Gu Li, you're actually thinking of abandoning me now?" roared Jiangchen. "Ha ha, you zombie progenitors committed all sorts of evil. You deserve to die. I simply listened to slander. I'm not like you. I've harmed a single one of the people of the Beast region. I've never. It's all your fault. You turned them into zombies. It's all your fault. In the face of death, people always revealed their true, ugliest side." Gu Li was willing to throw caution to the wind in order to survive. What zombie progenitors? What spring and autumn hegemony? None of it mattered as much as his life. So long as he lived, he still had a chance. After scolding the zombie progenitors, Guli looked expectantly at Yizichin. How ugly! I've seen you like this more than once. Just as you see no hope of turning the tables, you grovel and beg for mercy. I'm tired of your despicable behavior. Yizichin wasn't even in the mood to laugh at him. He simply laughed calmly. You said the Chiyu sword instigated you, that the zombie progenitors harmed the people of the beast region. I believe you. They're definitely doomed. There's no need to even think about it. But why should I spare your life? Emperor Yi, please let me go this once. I'll definitely turn over a new leaf. When I get back, I'll disperse the abyssals. I can even make up for my crimes and help you attack the demons. So long as you nod, I'll do anything you want. Brother Yi, we're relatives. We're both members of the Gu family. Just let me go, alright? Just let me go this time. Guli gazed coldly at Yizichin, who looked back at him expectantly. Not good. With that, Yizichin raised his hand without hesitation. Rumble. Under the clear sky, a bolt of red lightning struck down with a loud rumble. Cough. Caught off guard, Yizichin coughed up a mouthful of blood and swayed. The bolt of lightning shot straight for his sea of consciousness. The power of lightning crashed into his godhead, causing faint cracks to appear on his golden longsword. Heavenly lightning devoured his heart. His godhead shattered. Heavily injured, Yizichin looked up at the sky in confusion and disbelief. Chapter 798. Elder Sister. Outside the endless beast region, the terrifying thunderclouds vanished, and the immortals outside felt as if a huge boulder had been lifted from their hearts. The pressure of the thunderclouds was simply too strong, especially the last bolt of tribulation lightning. Even though they were thousands of miles away, their eyelids still twitched and their hearts trembled. Great Emperor, I wonder if we can go in and see the Supreme Divinity's face? The one who spoke was a piece of land. With his position as an immortal, he was only considered to be at the bottom of the heavenly court. It would be difficult for him to enter the numinous sky hall of the golden arches in his lifetime. However, he was part of the beast region, so he had the geographical advantage. Only then could he follow behind the North Pole Emperor and see the exalted Divine Lord. The other immortal's eyes lit up as well. Exalted God, he had only seen such existences in the ancient books of immortals. Now that he was able to see them with his own eyes, it was definitely the greatest fortune of his life. Brother Fushi, Xidigarba, what do you think? The purple-robed Emperor Ziwei turned to the side and asked. All of the higher-ups of the three realms had come out for the god descent. The heavenly court was led by the North Pole Emperor, and the immortal region was led by Fushi. Logically speaking, the great sacred emperor equaling heaven should have come to the underworld. However, he had been searching for a breakthrough recently and had yet to show himself. When the Jade Emperor ascended, someone from the underworld had asked about the great sacred emperor equaling heaven. The Jade Emperor only smiled mysteriously and did not say anything. Left with no other choice, Xidigarba Bodhisattva could only bring the 10 Yama kings over. Originally, the Xidigarba Bodhisattva didn't want to come, but he couldn't resist the advice of the 10 Yama kings. The few of them were not qualified to meet the exalted deity. Thus, Xidigarba Bodhisattva had no choice but to leave the mountain. Meeting the exalted deity is not something that you and I can say with certainty. The divine bird, the three greens, will guide us. The Xidigarba Bodhisattva said indifferently. He had been a Buddhist for many years and did not really care about these things. The Xidigarba Bodhisattva is right. Let's just follow the three bluebirds. Fushi pursed his lips into a smile. Actually, he had ascended to the god realm with Nuwa many years ago, but he couldn't let go of the celestial realm, so he asked for permission to return. In order to prevent Fushi from breaking the balance of the three realms, the people of the god realm sealed his divine power. But even so, he, who had been to the god realm before, was still far more knowledgeable than others. As for meeting the exalted goddess, it was not that urgent. Emperor Ziwei's expression darkened. These two, he was the only one who was anxious. This wouldn't do. After all, he was the master of the heaven realm. He had to be steady. Since they said they would wait for the three-legged green bird, then they would wait. However, the North Pole Emperor had his suspicions. The beast region ascended to godhood. Who could it be? Chirp chirp, with a loud cry, it flapped its wings and flew into the beast region. The triazure bird is moving, said an immortal. Follow me. As soon as the North Pole Emperor finished speaking, the three youths leading the way suddenly stopped in their tracks. Chirp chirp, sorrowful cries rang out from its mouth, but it didn't advance any further. What's going on? Rumble. At this moment, a clap of thunder boomed. Red lightning pierced the immortals and they hurriedly dodged. Chirp chirp, after coming to a stop, the tri-cyan bird let out a mournful cry, then transformed into a streak of cyan light and flew into the beast region. The immortals behind them were all confused. The North Pole Emperor knit his brows and looked at Fushi. Isn't it said that there are only 81 bolts of heavenly lightning? Brother Fushi, you've been to the god realm. Did you know that there's more after the 81 bolts? I didn't. Fushi shook his head. He didn't know why, but he was actually a little flustered. Follow the triazure bird. Since it's gone in, we can naturally go in as well. When the time comes, everything will become clear. Crack. Cracks had already appeared in Yi Zichen's sea of consciousness. His godhead could no longer withstand the lightning's corrosive might and shattered. For Yi Zichen, the destruction of his godhead wasn't as simple as a serious injury. He coughed up a mouthful of blood. He stared blankly at the sky. It was still clear and boundless. But why had another bolt of lightning appeared? Hadn't it ended long ago? God realm, are you really so against me? Crack. Back in Maple City, Xiao Yumei was knitting when a sharp needle suddenly pierced her palm. An indescribable sense of fear welled up in her heart. Zichen. Xiao Yumei tossed her knitting to the ground, then stood in the doorway and shouted. Take me to the nine-tailed fox clan of the beast region. Hurry! The dragon clan. As the strongest race since ancient times, the dragon clan had suffered the least damage during the zombie invasion. Because of the heavenly lightning, Xia Kiki had told the clan elders to stay in the main hall. She was a naughty girl, so she kept clamoring to go see. Just as she was about to throw a tantrum with the elders, she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her chest. She looked up into the sky in bewilderment. Big Brother Zichen. Roar. An illusory golden dragon appeared behind him. With a resonant roar, he leapt into the air. When the dragon elders saw this, they froze, then shouted, Follow the young lady. Don't let anything happen to her. Zichen. This time, Su Yan ignored Lady Nuwa's attempts to stop her. She ran over, crying. Zichen, Zichen. Her eyes filled with tears. Tears streamed down her worried face and landed on Yi Zichen's clothes. HM? When Guli, who'd thought he was going to die, saw this, he froze for a moment, then burst into unbridled laughter. His lifeless eyes lit up. He hadn't died. Yi Zichen was dead. Ha ha, I'm the son of heaven's mandate. Yi Zichen, so what if you achieved divine bestowal? So what if you survived 81 bolts of heavenly lightning? The god realm won't tolerate you. It won't tolerate you. Guli laughed wantonly. At the same time, Xiao Yan spoke up from within the lightning pool. Father, what do you think? Another bolt. If he can withstand 81 bolts of heavenly lightning, his godhead can't possibly be that weak. Just in case, another bolt will fall. But there's a woman by his side. So what? She's just grass. Since she wants to stay there, let's strike her as well. Understood. Rumble. Another bolt of red lightning fell from the sky. Little sister, get out of the way. Su Zhu shouted, warning Su Yan to leave. However, when she saw the bolt of lightning, Her eyes flashed with determination. I can't let you hurt Sichin anymore. Tears welled up in her eyes as she stared directly at the bolt of lightning. She didn't even try to dodge. Instead, she faced it head-on. Little sister! Su Zhu shouted frantically. At that moment, Su Luer woke up. When she saw the bolt of lightning and the unmoving Su Yen by Yi Zichen's side. Little sister! Mournful cries rang out from the Su sisters' mouths. Without any hesitation, both of them charged towards the thunderbolt. But it was too late. Boom! The bolt of lightning swallowed up Su Yen and Yi Zichen. Halfway there, Su Luer and Su Zhu knelt helplessly to the ground. Suddenly, a familiar memory flashed through Su Luer's mind. Chapter 799. That year 1, at the gates of the Beast Region's Nine-Tailed Fox Clan. The entire Nine-Tailed Fox Clan was decked out in red ribbons. The guards of honor played gongs and drums. They'd already been playing for 3 days and 3 nights. The clan heads' chambers were all red. A woman dressed in a red gown sat in front of her dressing table. The woman's features were peerless. She smiled sweetly. Her light pink lips were pursed, and there were 2 middle-aged women standing behind her, helping her with her makeup. Big sister! A young woman ran into the room, shouting irritably. She was holding the hand of a little girl around 4 or 5 years old. The dressing woman turned around with a calm smile and waved at the young woman. Second sister, little sister, you came just in time. You came at the right time. Big sister was looking for you. Why were you looking for me? Asked the young woman in confusion. Then she waved her hand. Let me ask you something first. The rumors in the clan say you're going to marry the Yellow Emperor of the human world. Is that true? That's right, said the woman gently, stroking her cheek. But aren't we Yao? Big sister always told me that humans and Yao walk different paths. Why does Big sister want to marry a human? The young woman's eyes were still filled with confusion. Then she seemed to remember something. Could it be that he helped us before, so Big sister wants to repay him? That's part of the reason, but it's mostly because Big sister truly loves him. The woman smiled, then turned to the 2 middle-aged women behind her. You 2 can leave. I want to talk to second sister and the others. Yes. The attendants left. The young woman politely nodded at them, then watched them leave. After that, she frowned unhappily and looked at the woman. You clearly taught me that humans and Yao walk different paths. How can matters of the heart be so easily explained? The woman stroked the young woman's hair, her gaze doting. Once second sister grows up, you'll understand. I don't want to grow up. Things are great right now. There's Big sister in the clan. All I need to do is take care of little sister. The young woman giggled and rubbed the little girl's head. Lil Zhu, do you think Big sister is right? The girl nodded childishly, and the woman smiled gently as she watched. After a while, she seemed to have made up her mind and took the sandalwood box that had been placed on the dressing table. Second sister, stretch out your hand. What? Although her tone was questioning, the girl still extended her hand. An ice crystal jade was placed in her palm. The coolness of the ice crystal spread from her palm to her entire body. Big sister is about to get married, so the position of patriarch will naturally fall on your shoulders. The ice crystal jade was passed down from generation to generation in my Nine-Tailed Fox clan, but it was a disgrace to our ancestors. Elder sister's attainments in the ice element can't be considered outstanding. On the other hand, second sister, your attainments in the ice element are extremely high. I'll pass this ice crystal to you, and I'll also pass on the position of clan head to you. I hope that you can allow the Nine-Tailed Fox clan to continue on. With that, the woman stood up from her chair. Dressed in red, she picked up the red veil on the table and placed it on top of her head. Please forgive Big sister's selfishness. I'll leave the Nine-Tailed Fox clan to you in the future. Gongs and drums were beating and firecrackers were being set off. An immortal beast prostrated itself at the gates of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, and a man stood beside it. Clad in yellow robes, His eyes were as deep as water, and his brows were as thick as ink. As long as he stood there, he exuded the might of an emperor who could look down on all living things with disdain. Lil Yen. When the expressionless man saw the red-robed woman appear, he smiled and walked over to greet her. Big sister. Inside the gates, the girl's eyes were filled with tears. She clutched the ice crystal the woman had given her. Second sister, why are you crying? What's big sister doing? Isn't she the head of the nine-tailed fox clan? Isn't she supposed to be unable to leave Fox Mountain? The girl's childish face was filled with confusion. Wiping away her tears, she reached out and tousled the girl's hair. Big sister's gone to pursue what she wants. What does big sister want? Him. The girl's gaze fell upon the man in imperial robes at the gates. Her expression was complicated, and she didn't know what to do. Lil Yen, have you really let go of everything now that you're gone? The man couldn't help but ask as he held the girl's hand. The woman turned her head to look at the girl. Sensing his gaze, the girl hurriedly averted her gaze. At that moment, the woman pursed her lips into a smile. Second sister's grown up. She can handle things on her own now. Murder! Murder! Suddenly, a panicked cry came from the front of the noisy honor guards. The man in imperial robes frowned and called out to the armored man beside him. Changxian, go see what's going on up ahead. Yes, your majesty. Before the man could take more than a few steps, a basin of red liquid splashed towards the man in front of him. The man leaned to the side and used his robes to shield himself and the red-robed woman. The red liquid splashed onto his robes. The stench of blood assailed his nostrils. Blood. The red liquid that was splashed over was blood. Instantly, the man in imperial robes furrowed his brows. Marriage was a joyous occasion, but seeing blood was extremely unlucky. Who dares to act so insolently at my wedding? It's been a long time. Have you forgotten about me, brother Yellow Emperor? A coarse laugh rang out. Not long after, a burly man with a horn on his head appeared in front of them. In his hand was a musician from the honor guard. After casually snapping the musician's neck, the horned man spoke once more. Brother Yellow Emperor's union with the Empress of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan is a major event in the 4 seas and 8 wastelands. I've come especially to congratulate you, Brother Yellow Emperor. However, my clansmen are warlike by nature, so we don't know how to celebrate. All we can do is use our most beloved blood to congratulate you. Xingtian, you've come to cause trouble, haven't you? Roared the armored Changxian. Did the Flame Emperor send you? Don't be rude, Changxian. The Yellow Emperor stretched out his hand to stop Changxian. Brother Flame Emperor and I are of the same breath and branch. We're brothers, so how could Brother Flame Emperor come looking for trouble on my wedding day? Pa. Xingtian spat on the ground and snorted. Hypocritical? Are you trying to be on the same side? Tui. I, the Flame Emperor, should be the one to unify the world. Who do you think you are, Yellow Emperor? Chiyu has already been eliminated. For the sake of righteousness, the Flame Emperor has refrained from infighting. We all admire his righteousness. Xingtian, the Flame Emperor himself, said that the Yellow Emperor should be the ruler of the world. You're bringing shame to your master by saying all this now. The woman in red lifted her veil. She was furious that someone's blood had been splashed on her wedding day. Everyone knows that the Yellow Emperor is a despicable man. Empress, I'll call you Empress once more on account of your achievements in the battle against Chiyu. Now that you're marrying this despicable man, you'll naturally side with him. Xingtian snorted disdainfully at the woman's words. Chapter 800. That year, too, before he'd even finished speaking, a rainbow bridge descended from the sky, forming a bridge in the middle of the beast region. A man holding a folding fan stood on the bridge. He slowly walked down the bridge and entered everyone's line of sight. Yellow Emperor, what do you think? The man with the folding fan, who walked down the rainbow bridge, opened with such words. The man in the imperial robe frowned and bowed slightly after hesitating for a while. Divine Emissary. The man the Yellow Emperor called Divine Emissary nodded calmly, then took a few steps forward. The surrounding people all knelt on one knee and respectfully called him Divine Emissary. Rise. The man raised his right hand, lifting the surrounding Yao and mortals off the ground. Before descending, I never would have guessed I'd run into the Yellow Emperor's wedding. My presence here has ruined the atmosphere. But, even though it's ruined the atmosphere, I still have to ask, what do you think? The red-robed woman lifted her veil and glanced to her side, her gaze suspicious. She clearly didn't know what had transpired between her man and the God Realm's emissary. The Yellow Emperor was silent for a long while, then sighed. Divine Emissary, you're forcing my hand. Oh! The Divine Emissary arched his brows, then smiled calmly. It seems you don't want to agree. Do your words and actions represent the immortal region? Silence. I can tell you're not particularly convinced either. The Divine Emissary smiled calmly. The Divine Emissary smiled faintly and said, It just so happens that I stayed in the immortal region for a while before descending, so I brought some of the higher-ups of the immortal region over. Whoosh. The Divine Emissary waved his feather fan, and 7 or 8 men and women appeared before everyone's eyes. When he saw them, the Yellow Emperor's brows furrowed even more deeply. For some reason, he had a bad premonition. Yellow Emperor. The men and women bowed to the Yellow Emperor. If you've come to bring gifts, just wait in the immortal region. The wedding will be held in the immortal region. There's no need to trouble everyone to come all the way here. Sensing the Yellow Emperor's deep gaze, the men and women were suddenly speechless. They subconsciously glanced at the oracle, and the oracle also chuckled at this moment. Repeat what you told me in the immortal region. There is no need to worry about what he will do to you. With me here, no matter how powerful he is nothing but an ant. Say that again. The armored man roared angrily. At this moment, Xing Tian also took a step forward, a sinister smile on his face. How dare you, Changxian? Are you trying to be rude to the Divine Emissary? Xing Tian, do you know what you are doing right now? Changxian roared angrily. As someone who had followed the Yellow Emperor this entire time, he knew many secrets that outsiders didn't. The people of the God Realm wanted the Yellow Emperor dead. After shouting angrily, he turned his gaze to the higher-ups of the celestial region. Tell me, what did you say to the envoy? If I'm not satisfied with what you say, I'll take your heads. Changxian was not a vulgar person, but when the Yellow Emperor was threatened, his loyalty could no longer allow him to calmly converse with these people. Gulp. The throat of one of Immortal Domain's higher-level figures moved. He secretly glanced at the emissary, discovering that the other party was also looking at him from the corners of his eyes. He steeled his heart and spoke. Please abdicate your position, Yellow Emperor, in exchange for 10,000 years of peace in the immortal region. With someone taking the lead, the others braced themselves and bowed. Please abdicate your position, Yellow Emperor, in exchange for 10,000 years of peace in the immortal region. Please abdicate your position, Yellow Emperor, in exchange for 10,000 years of peace in the immortal region. Please abdicate your position, Yellow Emperor, in exchange for 10,000 years of peace in the immortal region. Bang. It wasn't just them. The guards of honor also knelt on the ground, refusing to get up. These people shouldn't have known all this, but now they were saying something like this. Divine Emissary! The Yellow Emperor's tone had become harsh, but the Divine Emissary still smiled calmly. Yellow Emperor, this is the general trend. What else do you have to say? Based on my understanding of the immortal region, you've always been particular about democracy. More than half of the higher-ups here have already decided that you must abdicate. This is the general trend. The Yellow Emperor swept his cold gaze across the crowd, a playful smile on his lips as he looked at the higher-ups of the immortal region he'd personally raised. Tell me the truth. Did the divine emissary force you to say this, or is this the result of your discussion? It's the conclusion of our discussion. My lord, this must be the conclusion of these cowards. The people of the immortal region can't possibly ignore you, said Changxian anxiously. In reality, that's not the case. The Yellow Emperor's tone was a little bitter. The divine emissary has already descended for 15 minutes. There's no way the people of the immortal region wouldn't have noticed. But they still haven't come. The conclusion is obvious. My future in the immortal region. They've given up on me. My lord. There's no need to say any more. The Yellow Emperor interrupted Changxian with a smile. They've done well. The immortal region has only just taken shape, and it's insignificant compared to the 9 provinces. My arrogance has angered the god realm. That's my fault. If I'd broken through earlier, that would have been fine, but I haven't. Since that's the case, I should pay the price. Using my life in exchange for 10,000 years of peace in the immortal region isn't a bad deal. My lord. Changxian's face was filled with anxiety. The Yellow Emperor reached out and patted him on the shoulder, shaking his head. 500 years ago, during the great battle against Qiyu, you were the only one left of the generals who followed me to conquer the 8 wilds. When I think back to the scene of our conquest, it still feels like it was yesterday. To be able to follow you is this lowly general's good fortune, said Changxian. The Yellow Emperor smiled and nodded, then turned to look at the red-robed woman beside him. He reached out and caressed her beautiful face, his deep, watery eyes filled with doting love. They didn't speak, but their gazes met, and their words spoke louder than 1,000 words. After a full 15 minutes, the Yellow Emperor's hand left the woman's face. He solemnly tidied up his imperial robes, then walked towards the emissary, his gaze sharp as swords. Roar! Behind the divine emissary, an endless horde of wild beasts suddenly appeared, their eyes filled with blood-red light. They opened their bloody mouths, and drops of viscous liquid dripped from them. He indifferently brushed past the upper echelons of the immortal region, brushed past the special envoy, and walked past everyone else in the surroundings. The Yellow Emperor Xian Yuan. Step by step, he moved forward. Every step he took was filled with determination, but his bleak back revealed an indescribable sorrow. In the end, he'd been abandoned. At that moment, he stopped and stared at the horde of beasts unmoving. Chapter 801. That year, 3, facing off against millions upon millions of beast soldiers, this sort of heroism wasn't something others could compare to. Clad in imperial robes, the Yellow Emperor wielded a silver longsword. His sleeves fluttered in the windless air, and a vortex of spiritual energy swirled around him. Behind him, the divine emissary frowned, then roared, "Yellow Emperor, are you really going to put up a desperate struggle? Yellow Emperor, are you really going to put up a desperate struggle? I'm commanded by the heavens. You want me to abandon my armor and accept death? I can't do that." Ninely, the divine emissary sure knows how to pick his people. Buzz, a dazzling beam of sword light shot into the sky. In an instant, tens of thousands of swords fell from the sky and stabbed into the beast soldiers. Roar, pained howls erupted from the beast soldiers. Fresh blood splattered the earth, but the stench of it only served to further stimulate their bloodthirsty instincts. Roar! The beastmen roared as they charged forward. Even though the sword skill had killed tens of thousands of beastmen, even though his sword technique had just killed tens of thousands of them, it seemed utterly insignificant in the face of this sea of beast soldiers. "My lord, I'll help you." Whoosh! A man in golden armor suddenly appeared in front of the blood-soaked Yellow Emperor. "Changxian, didn't I tell you to stay put? Die!" He stabbed his halberd through the beast soldier's chest, then swept out in a circle, slicing through the throats of all the beast soldiers around him. "I've followed you for so long, but have you ever seen me abandon you?" Just then, a pitch-black shadow lunged at the Yellow Emperor's back. "My lord, watch out! Glacial Piercer!" Whoosh! An icicle burrowed out of the ground, piercing through the shadowy beast soldier. Lil Yen, why are you in the sky? A woman dressed in red had 9 snow-white tails swaying behind her. When the Yellow Emperor looked over, she smiled sweetly at him. Their eyes met. There was no need for words. From their gazes, they both understood what the other wanted to say. I haven't lived my life in vain. 9-tailed fox girl, roared the divine emissary. Aren't you afraid that the 9-tailed fox clan will be doomed? Divine envoy, you're being too serious. The moment I stepped out of the sect, I was no longer a member of the 9-tailed fox clan. I'll also leave the clan leader's seal to my second sister. Now that I'm all alone in this world, how can I talk about consigning the 9-tailed fox clan to eternal damnation? The woman in red pursed her lips into a smile and looked at the Yellow Emperor fondly. I've decided to marry him, so I'm his woman. If he lives, I live. If he dies, I die. You have a sharp tongue. Then I'd like to see how long you can flop around for. I'm going to help my sister. The girl in the mountain gate shouted and was about to rush out, but the maidservant beside her grabbed her tightly and shook her head at her. First Miss has already warned that our 9-tailed fox clan is not to interfere in this matter. But isn't Big Sister also a member of the 9-tailed fox clan? She's the clan head. She's not. First Miss said that the moment she stepped out of the 9-tailed fox clan's mountain gate, she was no longer a member of the 9-tailed fox clan. Clan leader, also your second Mississippi, nonsense. The girl struggled to get out, but the maidservant held her back with a death grip. Second Miss, please listen to the first Mississippi. If you go out as well, then the 9-tailed fox clan will truly be finished. If you go out to help, then the 9-tailed fox clan will stand against the divine envoy. Do you really want to see the 9-tailed fox clan be consigned to eternal damnation? Second Miss, you're no longer the second Miss of the past. You're the clan leader of the 9-tailed fox clan, and your every word and action will determine the future of the 9-tailed fox clan. Please be a little more mature and think things over. They fought. Even though there were billions upon billions of bestial soldiers, they couldn't do anything to the 3 of them. Day and night alternated. This blood-soaked battle lasted for a full day. Even though the 3 of them were extraordinarily strong, under the endless onslaught of their foes, they were still exhausted. Gradually, the marks of the enemy's bestial soldiers began to appear on their bodies. But each mark took the lives of tens of thousands, perhaps even hundreds of thousands, of bestial soldiers. Mountains of corpses lay strewn about. From 100 meters away, anyone standing within 10 paces of the 9-tailed fox clan's mountain gate could smell the pungent stench of blood. As time passed, the divine envoy was no longer as calm and composed as before. Although the bestial soldiers had injured the 3 of them, their numbers had also plummeted. As for their wounds, everyone knew that the Empress of the 9-tailed fox clan was skilled at healing, not fighting. If they were given the slightest chance to catch their breath, their wounds would heal in the blink of an eye. We can't go on like this. The divine envoy frowned and his aura surged. Bzzz. Just as he was about to make a move, a barefoot Lolita girl suddenly walked out of the void. Who dares use the spiritual energy of a sovereign here? She looked like a loli, but her voice was that of a mature woman. When the divine envoy saw her, he dropped to his knees in panic. Greetings, Master of the Laws. Are you the one who wants to challenge my laws? The lowly girl asked sternly. The divine envoy hurriedly shook his head. I have no intention of challenging you, Your Majesty. It's just that this world's Yellow Emperor has challenged the dignity of the higher realms. I've come under orders to handle this matter, but I didn't expect this villain to be so powerful. I'm afraid my methods aren't enough to punish him. That's why I'm so muddle-headed that I want to deal with him myself. I don't care about your conflict, but if anyone dares to use spiritual energy surpassing that of an immortal king, I'll kill them without mercy. The lowly girl's expression froze. Sensing her gaze, the divine envoy's heart trembled, and he hurriedly kowtowed. I wouldn't dare. Just treat this as a warning. There won't be a next time. Umph. With that, the lowly girl vanished into thin air. I wouldn't dare, I wouldn't dare. For a full hour, the divine envoy knelt on the ground, not daring to rise. The onlookers watched in confusion. Just who was that girl just now? How could she make the divine envoy so afraid? Ignoring their gazes, the divine envoy gritted his teeth and looked at the battlefield. The number of orcs was decreasing, but Yellow Emperor and the others were getting better and better at fighting. If this continued, even if all the orcs were killed, they wouldn't be able to kill them. Something had to be done. Suddenly, the divine emissary's eyes lit up. He took out an ancient coin from his bosom and placed it in his palm. The coin shone brightly, and at the same time, a deep reply appeared in his sea of consciousness. What happened? The divine emissary's face lit up as he replied in the sea of consciousness. Emperor, I ran into some problems during my mission in the lower realm. With that said, the oracle reported the current situation in the sea of consciousness once again. The Yellow Emperor can be considered ambitious and ruthless, but the might of the god realm is inviolable. How could he possibly provoke it? Speak, what request do you have for me this time? Chapter 802. Inner Demons, my lord, look at that divine emissary's deflated expression. Beneath his golden armor, Changxian pouted at the emissary. Even under these circumstances, he was still able to pay attention to the emissary. Clearly, the pressure the beastmen were exerting on them was negligible. Don't get careless. The Yellow Emperor swung his sword light accompanied by lightning, obliterating the beastmen charging at them. All under the heavens belong to the Emperor, and all under the heavens belong to him. He's just a servant of the god realm. Does he really think he can order us around? But we need to give those people from the immortal region a good beating. Yes, we need to. Thinking of how they'd begged for his life, his heart ached. More than half of the immortal region's sovereigns had been personally groomed by him. Some had the talent to rule the world, while others had astonishing talent. Loving talent, he'd recruited them all into the immortal region. He'd wanted to rely on them to rule the world and ensure eternal peace. But now, things had turned out like this. Rumble. Muffled claps of thunder rang through the sky. The Yellow Emperor and Changxian both raised their heads and discovered that the sky above them was filled with thick, inky clouds. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, creating an intimidating sight. There's something strange about these clouds. Xian Yuan, you need to be careful. The person who sent the voice transmission was the red-robed woman in the sky. Her 9 white tails kept swaying as she stared at the thundercloud with a solemn expression. Subconsciously glancing at the emissary, the Yellow Emperor realized that the fellow's nervousness had vanished. It looks like the emissary's backup plan. He's sending down tribulation lightning. I'd like to see just how powerful this tribulation lightning is. Boom. Stamping his right foot on the ground, the Yellow Emperor leaped into the sky. He gazed indifferently at the thunderclouds, his eyes brimming with arrogance as his lips curled into a smile. You're courting death. The emissary narrowed his eyes and snorted. At that moment, a bolt of lightning descended from the sky. Boom. Lightning washed over him. The Yellow Emperor withstood the heavenly lightning with his body alone. Lightning crackled around him. Just the residual power of the heavenly lightning was enough to make the scalps of those watching go numb. But he threw his head back and laughed, his expression overflowing with disdain. Rumble. Rumble. Bolts of heavenly lightning tempered his body. Even the divine emissary was dumbfounded by the successive heavenly lightning. Up in the sky, the Yellow Emperor allowed the lightning to strike him. He didn't retreat even half a step. What an ambitious and ruthless person. The divine emissary couldn't help but sigh. This kind of heavenly lightning would usually only descend when a god descended. The Yellow Emperor used his mortal body to block several bolts of lightning. He was truly a hero. But even if he was a hero, someone who the god realm wanted to erase from existence, he would not survive. Boom, boom, boom. The heavenly thunder was endless. The Yellow Emperor, who had always been dismissive of heavenly thunder, finally showed signs of fatigue. Without the recovery of spiritual power, the heavenly lightning bolts became stronger and stronger. On the 70th lightning bolt, he finally spat out a mouthful of blood. Another bolt of lightning descended, causing the Yellow Emperor to lose his footing and fall heavily to the ground. Lord! Howl, the beastmen, who had been biding their time, suddenly attacked. Chang Xian forcefully used his body to protect Chang Xian, but there were several beastmen's claw marks on his back. Humph! Chang Xian gave a muffled grunt. He suppressed the sweetness in his throat, gritted his teeth, and plunged his halberd into the beastman's chest. Scram, you beast! Xian Yuan. The red-robed woman descended nervously to his side. She stretched out a hand, glowing with light, and pressed it between his eyebrows. I'll heal you right now. Rumble! Wretched heavens, don't even think of harming my sovereign. Whoosh! Chang Xian leapt into the air, golden halberd in hand, and pointed it at the sky. Don't! Cried the weakened Yellow Emperor. Chang Xian was clearly using himself as a lightning rod, trying to block the lightning for him. Having seen the lightning itself, how could he not know that Chang Xian wouldn't be able to withstand it? Sizzle! The power of lightning flowed through Chang Xian's halberd and poured into his body. The surging lightning wreaked havoc on Chang Xian's internal organs, causing his blood to roil. Squelch! The blood in his throat couldn't hold back any longer. It burst forth. Rumble! Another bolt of lightning descended from the sky. Squelch! Another one. Yet another. Chang Xian really was using the halberd as the Yellow Emperor's last lightning rod, using his own life to resist the heavenly lightning. Bang! He landed. By now, Chang Xian's aura was almost inaudible. Covered in blood, the Yellow Emperor knelt and grabbed his hand. Brother! Rumble! Another bolt of heavenly lightning exploded in the sky. This bolt of heavenly lightning brought to them despair. Divine Emissary, I agree. I agree to your request. Now, I only ask that you release Lil Yen and Chang Xian. That won't do. The Divine Emissary shook his head. The two of them openly defy the God Realm's authority. They deserve death. You! My lord, he's nothing but a lackey. Why bother with him? Chang Xian chuckled, blood still flowing from his mouth. Then he saw another bolt of lightning descend from the sky. Don't even think of harming my lord. Like an oil lamp on the verge of death, he somehow found the strength to leap into the air, halberd in hand. Heavenly lightning struck him. Convulsing, Chang Xian shouted his last words before he died. Big brother, retreat! Chang Xian! The Yellow Emperor screamed at the top of his lungs. His eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Chang Xian, who was still above him. Then, under the might of the lightning, he transformed into motes of light and disappeared. Brother! Rumble! The lightning didn't stop. A red figure flitted past the Yellow Emperor. Lil Yen, don't! It seems I'll have to help you block the rest of the lightning, said the red-robed woman with a smile. If the heavens wish to destroy my lord, I'll follow my lord. Then, the woman in red looked at the young girl in the nine-tailed fox mountain gate. Her lips trembled. Boom! Big sister! Su Lure yelled from the back mountains of the nine-tailed fox clan. She reached out, wanting to snatch Su Yen back from the lightning. You can't go over. Lady Nuwa used her spiritual energy to lock her down. Su Lure could only struggle, tears streaming down her face. Big sister! It was this scene again. It had been like this. She'd hated herself for 10,000 years. She hated herself for being so weak that she couldn't help her sister when she fought against the heavens. From that moment on, she'd bitterly studied ice technique. 300 years. The head of the nine-tailed fox clan, Su Lure, the Fox Emperor, had appeared out of nowhere. She could summon clouds and rain, and all races worshipped her. She loathed the immortal region and never believed in the heavens. She looked forward to the day when she could personally shatter the heavens and turn the god realm upside down. She looked forward to the day when she could stand before her big sister no longer as a child, but as her left and right arm. But it was this scene again. This scene, which had woken her up in her dreams hundreds, thousands of times, now replayed itself before her eyes. It was like a heart demon, devouring her heart and soul. Big sister! Su Lu-er's cries gradually turned into howls. Her crystal-like eyes turned blood-red, and her 9 pure white tails turned the color of blood. Chapter 803. Su Lu-er. Red. This red was bewitching, dazzling. Su Lu-er, who'd fallen to her inner demons, felt nothing but hatred and resentment. Her mind replayed over and over again the scene of Su Yen being swallowed up by heavenly lightning. Over and over again. She hated her own helplessness. She'd clearly already made up her mind. She'd resolved to never let something like this happen again, but when it really did happen, there was nothing she could do. All she could do was watch helplessly as heavenly lightning swallowed up her sister. The Ice Empress? The head of the 9-tailed fox clan. 10,000 beasts worshipped her, and the 3 realms respected her. But what could she do? All she could do now was stand off in the distance and cry, repeating the scene of her cowardice. You all deserve to die. Bang! A berserk aura erupted from her body, and her spiritual power turned blood-red. Lady Nuwa, who'd been holding her captive, was caught off guard. The overwhelming spiritual power hit her so hard she coughed up blood. Lady Nuwa! Su Zhu shouted as she ran over and helped Nuwa to her feet. She looked worriedly at Su Lu-er and Su Yen, who'd been swallowed by heavenly lightning. They! Idiot! How could a sky immortal resist the power of heavenly lightning? Gu Li looked disdainfully at Su Yen, who'd been swallowed by heavenly lightning. The moment she'd tried to use her body to block it, he'd already pushed her into a pit of despair. That arrogant Yi Zichen, too, had to die. The heavens wouldn't tolerate him. He could only die. Just now, you were slandering my big sister, weren't you? At some point, Gu Li heard a cold, sinister voice behind him. When he turned his head around, he was greeted by the sight of a bewitching and heart-palpitating red. It's you? The instant he focused, he recognized her as Su Lu-er. Red? It seems you've fallen to your inner demons? The 9-tailed fox clan is truly pitiful. One died to accompany the demon, while the other chased after the demon. Who knows what's left? They're nothing. That's fine. Once I get rid of you, I'll turn the entire 9-tailed fox clan into blood zombies. That'll strengthen my forces considerably. Fallen to her inner demons. It wasn't as if Gu Li had never encountered such a situation before. Based on his analysis, he discovered that once a person succumbed to their inner demons, their strength would increase exponentially. However, the price they'd pay was losing their rationality and the ability to think. In other words, in his eyes, Su Lu-er was a bloodthirsty killing machine. Man is wise, but not strong. Wisdom precedes strength. Gu Li was of no threat to someone who'd abandoned reason in pursuit of power. Really? To his surprise, Su Lu-er, her eyes bloodshot, spoke in a playful tone. The moment he said that, Gu Li immediately felt like something was amiss. Dong. His fist landed squarely on Gu Li's chest. The force of the punch caused his chest to cave in. He deserves to die for slandering my sister, and he deserves to die for plotting against my clan. However, before I make up for the crime of slandering my sister, I will not let you die. She reached out and broke Gu Li's arm, then raised her foot and stomped down hard on his legs. Humph! Gu Li grunted through his nose and mouth. However, since he had fused with the abyssals, his injured tissues were rapidly healing. Done? That's great. His arms were crushed again, and his legs were broken again. Healed. Broken again. Healed. Broken again. Due to his damned self-healing abilities, Gu Li continued to endure this heart-wrenching pain. This kind of pain continuously eroded his spirit, and even eroded his desire to live. I beg you, give me a quick death. Right now, all he wanted was to die. He didn't want to endure this inhumane torture any longer. He considered himself to be an extremely shrewd and patient person. However, in the face of this pain, he couldn't bear it any longer. You want a quick death? The beautiful Su Lure bent down and brushed her slender fingers across Gu Li's cheek. Suddenly, she raised her hand and slapped him, causing his face to swell up. His teeth and blood splattered all over the ground. Impossible! Crack. If I kill you, will my sister come back to life? Crack. If I kill you, will I be able to start all over again? Crack. If I kill you, I still haven't settled the score for slandering my sister and coveting my clan. Why would I kill you? You demonic woman! Gu Li screamed in agony. Su Lure narrowed her eyes and smiled. You're right. I am a demonic woman. The moment you people killed my sister under the heavenly lightning, I became a devil. Boom! Su Lure punched Gu Li in the chest, then turned her gaze to the zombie progenitors. And you? Thud. Thud. Only streaks of red light could be seen crisscrossing on the nine-tailed fox clan's back mountain. Gradually, wounds began to appear on the insufferably arrogant zombie progenitors. All of you, go and accompany my sister in death. Su Lure's furious roars reverberated throughout the mountain. The zombie progenitors were exhausted from running for their lives. Faced with Su Lure, who'd succumbed to her inner demons, there was nothing they could do. At this moment, no one could stop her, and no one could. You want to run? As she fled, Hanba sensed the shadow of a giant hand appear behind her. An instant later, someone grabbed her by the neck. I haven't settled the score with you yet. My arm. You ripped it off, didn't you? Rip. Su Lure tore off Hanba's right arm. Ho Ching and Ingo, fellow zombie progenitors, frowned, gnashed their teeth, and charged forward. You're seeking death. Su Lure nimbly leaped backward to avoid their pincer attack, then turned around and swept horizontally. Thud. Both Ho Ching and Ingo slammed into the back mountain wall. And you, what's so great about having wings? After dealing with Ingo and the others, Su Lure leaped in front of Jiangchen. Jiangchen flapped his wings in an attempt to dodge, but how could he possibly compare to Su Lure in terms of speed? You're relying on them to fly, aren't you? Su Lure grabbed Jiangchen's wings. I wonder if you'll still be able to fly if I rip them off. Su Lure ripped the several-meter-long wings out by the root. Blood sprayed her face, making her look even more demonic. Humph! She tossed Jiangchen to the ground. Rumble. Thunder rumbled through the sky. Su Lure, who was in the middle of torturing the zombie progenitors, suddenly turned around. In the end, it was your heavenly lightning that killed my sister. Boom. Her fist met the heavenly lightning, and the red heavenly lightning instantly poured into her body. After a brief spasm, she coughed up a mouthful of blood. Ha! Su Lure wiped the blood from the corners of her mouth and gazed into the sky. Beneath the heavenly lightning, she smiled. She'd looked up at the sky countless times in the past. From young to old, wherever there was lightning, Su Lure's silhouette would be there to scatter it. 10,000 years. No lightning had ever descended on the Beast region. Everything she had to do was to prepare for the day when she would return. That day would be today. Chapter 804. Ba. The immortals lingering outside the Beast region hurried over, just in time to witness Su Lure's domination. That's the nine-tailed Empress. The Earth Grandpa trembled and rubbed his eyes. As a disciple of the Beast region, he'd actually met the Empress a few times before. As far as he could remember, although the Empresses might intimidated the three realms, she wasn't as cold as the outside world made her out to be. However, after a few interactions, he realized that the Empress wasn't as cold as the rumors said. On the contrary, she was more passionate than ordinary people. However, the scene just now left him in disbelief. This was the Empress he'd once known. Possessed. The experienced and knowledgeable North Pole Emperor furrowed his brows. The red energy emanating from her body was a sign of bedevilment. The Empress's heart is as firm as steel. The outside world shouldn't be able to affect her mental state. The past. Xidigarba gazed intently at the crazed Su Lure. I saw part of her past in her eyes. It's her past that's causing her to lose her mind. How pitiful. Buddha is merciful. Allowing this poor monk to witness this scene is truly pitiful. What did you see, Bodhisattva? Asked the North Pole Emperor. I can't say. Xidigarba sighed and shook his head. In response, the North Pole Emperor and the other immortals had no choice but to give up. These Baldies were the most stubborn. If they didn't want to say anything, they'd rather die than say it. Big Brother Zichin. Zichin. At that moment, two more beautiful figures appeared in the sky outside the Nine-Tailed Fox clan's mountain gate. They were Xia Kiki and Xiaoyume. They'd met in the Beast region, but when they saw each other, they only needed a single glance to understand why they'd come. Little Princess. The immortals all bowed to Xia Kiki. She was the only daughter of the current head of the Dragon Clan, one of the 4 sacred beasts. Her true form was that of a golden holy dragon, so it wasn't wrong for the immortals to call her Little Princess. Rise. Xia Kiki waved at the immortals, then turned to run into the mountain gate. You mustn't. The North Pole Emperor reached out to stop her. Xia Kiki frowned and looked at the Emperor before her. Why are you stopping me? And you? You're from the immortal region, aren't you? Yes. Seeing Xia Kiki point at him like this, Fushi didn't get angry and smiled faintly. Why are you still standing here? Don't you know that Big Brother Zichin is inside? Don't you know he's in danger? He's the immortal region's Yellow Emperor. Aren't you subjects worried? Is what His Highness said true? Fushi frowned. Look at the one beside me, Xiaoyume. She's Big Brother Zichin's closest woman. If you count me, I'm at most a side consort. This is the Empress. Just now, we both sensed that Big Brother Zichin was in danger. Were we both wrong? Xia Kiki grabbed Xiaoyume's arm. When Fushi saw her, his eyebrows twitched. When he went to the modern realm, he found someone to block the tribulation for the Yellow Emperor. The person blocking the tribulation had always been inextricably linked to the Yellow Emperor. This Little Highness was also the reincarnation of Xiaoyuli, who had followed the Yellow Emperor for several generations. Since that was the case, there was no mistake. Just stand there. You guys only know how to stand there like idiot. Big Brother Zichin is in trouble. Hurry up and go help him. If you don't want to go, then don't stop me from going in. Little Highness, it's not that we don't want to go, it's that we can't, sighed Fushi. What do you mean we can't? You're afraid of death, but I'm not. I'll go. Xia Kiki made to enter, but the North Pole Emperor frowned and stopped her. Fushi sighed. Look. Fushi pointed at Su Lure, who was wreaking havoc in the back mountains. The Empress has fallen to her inner demons. If we go in now, we'll only become her targets. Are we really going to fight her? That's Big Sister Lure. Xia Kiki froze. What happened to her? How did she become like this? She's fallen to her inner demons. At that moment, the Dragon Elder who'd rushed over with Xia Kiki spoke up. Young miss, the Empress has fallen to her inner demons. We should listen to Fushi and wait outside. If we go in rashly, we'll only bring harm to ourselves. Then Big Brother Zichin. The Yellow Emperor is blessed with good fortune. He won't fall in a place like this. At most, it'll be a daunting experience, said the Dragon Elder, ignoring his conscience. His mission was to ensure the young miss's safety. As for the Yellow Emperor, that had nothing to do with him. This girl can't go in either. Seeing that the Dragon Elder had restrained Xia Kiki, Fushi smiled calmly and grabbed Xiaoyume, who'd been about to sneak in. Back then, Brother Yellow Emperor and I were close friends. Now that he's in trouble, I can't let his wife put herself in danger. Before he could finish speaking, Fushi's gaze seemed to have captured something. That's. A few sharp-eyed people had already noticed the zombie progenitors. Fushi frowned. Denglong. Brother Fushi, what did you say? The primordial beast Denglong. Back then, Nuwa and I joined hands. Before he could finish, Fushi saw two figures fly towards them. Elder brother. Nuwa appeared before the immortals, dragging Su Zhu with her. Lady Nuwa. The immortals kowtowed. Nuwa, why did you come down? Those zombies were Denglong from back then. Fushi was shocked. Nuwa frowned at the zombie progenitors. Yes. As expected, were all these things that appeared in the beast region because of him? Yes and no. Nuwa nodded, then shook her head. But now's not the time to talk about that. Rather, is Brother Yellow Emperor inside? Fushi interrupted her. That's exactly what I wanted to talk about. The Yellow Emperor descended and summoned 81 bolts of heavenly lightning. He'd already withstood the lightning, but then. Nuwa recounted everything that had happened in detail. Fushi and the surrounding immortals' eyelids twitched as they listened. He'd withstood 81 bolts of heavenly lightning. The heavenly Tao wouldn't tolerate any more lightning. A beauty withstood the lightning. The Empress had been bedeviled. If this were recorded in the annals of the Grand Historian, it would definitely be a major event. Look, the Empresses flying towards the clouds, shouted one of the sharp-eyed immortals. The other immortals also looked over. Disperse. Blood trickled from the corners of her mouth. Eyes bloodshot, Su Luer punched the clouds. Her fist pierced through the clouds. But it didn't disperse. Father, are we still going to strike? We're already defying the heavenly Tao. Xiao Yan stood within the lightning pool, watching the scene unfold. Xiao Ting narrowed his eyes and snorted. Can't you see that someone's provoking the God realm? She wants to disperse the clouds. Send another bolt of lightning down. Let's show her the consequences of provoking our Xiao family. But, yes. Xiao Yan hesitated, but when he saw his father's expression, he didn't dare disobey. He steeled his heart and sent another bolt of lightning crashing down. Ha! Before the clouds dispersed, another bolt of lightning fell. When she saw this, Su Yan stopped resisting. She looked coolly down at Su Yan, who'd already been reduced to ashes by the lightning. Big sister, I'm coming with you. Rumble. Just as the lightning was about to descend, a dazzling beam of golden light appeared on the western horizon. Chapter 805. The Buddha. Amitabha. Buddhist chants reverberated through the air, and golden light suddenly appeared at the ends of the western sky. A Buddha, radiating golden light from head to toe, rode an auspicious cloud toward them. In front of it, a scripture in the form of a corpse flew toward the heavenly lightning. Boom! The scripture shattered, and the heavenly lightning vanished. Buddha! The immortals outside the mountain gate were stunned. They all flew towards the Buddha, but someone reached the Buddha's side before they did. Buddha! The great strength Bodhisattva, known as the Great Courage Bodhisattva, landed beside the Buddha's lotus throne. Buddha, Great Strength Bodhisattva. The immortals hurried over. The Buddha glanced at them coolly, then grinned at them. At the same time, he snorted, in acknowledgement. Su Luer, who'd been waiting for the heavenly lightning to devour her, opened her eyes. The heavenly lightning vanished. Then she recalled the words, Amitabha. Buddha. Without the slightest hesitation, the red-eyed Empress Su Luer flew directly toward the Buddha. When they were roughly 100 meters apart, she stopped and knelt in the air. Your inner demons have fallen upon you, yet you remain unperturbed. Your willpower is commendable. Seated on the lotus throne, the ancestral Buddha nodded his head calmly. Come here. Su Luer didn't hesitate. She landed in front of the Buddha's lotus throne. The Buddha reached out and patted her on the head. Instantly, her mind cleared and her inner demons scattered. Although your willpower is commendable, inner demons are still inner demons. You can suppress them with reason now, but that doesn't mean you'll be able to do so in the future. It's best to use this kind of power sparingly. Many thanks for your help, Buddha, but I still have a request. No need to say more. I've come precisely for your request. The Buddha waved his hand indifferently, then rode his lotus to where Yi Zichen and Su Yen had been devoured by the heavenly lightning. Priceless advice. Father, the Buddha with a Buddha position has arrived. Xiao Yen couldn't help but cry out in surprise when he saw what was happening. The old man beside him narrowed his eyes. His murky eyes flashed with a faint, sharp light. Having lived to his age, he had long since become a shrewd person. His gaze revealed even more of a wily old fox. It's actually Amitabha from the western Pure Land of ultimate bliss. I thought it would be Sakyamuni from the central world of Sa. With the Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva by his side, this old bald donkey has come with ill intentions. Xiao Ting furrowed his brows, his tone grave. Then, Father, should we continue to send lightning bolts? The man of good fortune has already been killed by our heavenly lightning. I don't think there's a need to send more lightning and provoke this Buddha, said Xiao Yen. How did I give birth to such a useless son like you? Xiao Ting's eyes flashed fiercely. If it weren't for the fact that you're my only son, the throne would never have fallen into your hands. Overcautious, greedy for life, and afraid of death. You don't have the slightest shadow of me in the past. Your son knows his mistake. Wrong, wrong, wrong. For hundreds of thousands of years, you've only known your wrongs, but when have you ever changed? Xiao Ting glared at his only son, annoyed that his son didn't live up to his expectations. Our Xiao family controls the tribulation lightning of the 6 realms. We're part of the God Realm's central judicial department. We punish the sins of 10,000 races and bestow auspicious signs upon the 4 seas. In other words, we control the karmic luck of all the realms. Anyone who sees us has to show us some respect. As the head of the Xiao family, you need to have an invincible spirit. But have I ever seen even the slightest bit of that in you? Your son understands, replied Xiao Yen timidly. Xiao Yen replied timidly. He feared his father from the bottom of his heart. Then, Father, should we send lightning bolts or not? You. AI. Xiao Ting's raised hand fell helplessly. His son. Of course we have to send lightning. Just now, that 9-tailed fox dared to openly defy the heavens. She challenged the might of the entire God realm and our Xiao family's dignity. If we don't punish someone like that, how can we maintain our foothold in the face of the God realm's myriad races? Where will our face go? But the Buddha of the Western Pure Land of ultimate bliss is here too. So what? Xiao Ting's eyes were filled with disdain. 100,000 years ago, I fought that bald donkey and couldn't decide a victor. Everyone says that the Buddha is a benevolent man of all ages, and that his path of cultivation is like a fish in water, without any bottlenecks to speak of. Now I'd like to see just how strong that bald donkey is. Let's see if he's taken the step I've been unable to take in the last 100,000 years. With that, Xiao Ting pushed away Xiao Yen, who was controlling the tribulation lightning. I'll handle this personally. Just watch from the sidelines. Your son obeys. The Buddha landed on the back mountain, his expression one of bemoaning the state of the universe and pitying the fate of mankind. He gazed at the floating clouds and couldn't help but shake his head resentfully. Sorrow begets sorrow. He closed his eyes and clasped his hands together. His lips trembled as scripture after scripture flowed from his mouth to the myriad clans of the beast region. Great mercy. Great release. The appearance of the zombie progenitors had caused far too many innocent deaths in the beast region. Outsiders might not be able to sense this kind of resentment, but living with it for a long time would affect one's mind. Light. The myriad clans lit up. With that final word, the beast region's resentment and aura of death completely dissipated. Su Lu and the others felt it the most directly. Just now, when they heard that last word, they felt their bodies relax. Their moods inexplicably improve. Even though they didn't know why they felt so depressed, rumble. At that moment, the sky rumbled with thunder once more. The rumbling thunder made the immortals below feel stifled. Buddha! Retreat. The Buddha glanced at the bodhisattva of great strength. He'd been prepared to take the lightning for the Buddha, but without hesitation, he retreated out of range. Boom! Heavenly lightning descended. The Buddha clasped his hands together and allowed the lightning to descend. Jade glass body. The image in the lightning pool showed the Buddha withstanding the lightning. After being tempered by it, his body became even more crystalline. Xiao Ting couldn't help but shout, "Jade glass body." Sure enough, he'd taken that step. A ruler. In the past, he'd been born a supreme, half a saint. His talent was breathtaking, and all the clans in the world admired him. And yet, as dazzling as he was, he'd stopped at the point where he'd become a ruler. 1,000,000 years of experience had allowed him to become a half-step ruler, but in the end, half a step was still half a step. I refuse to believe it. He'd struggled against this hurdle from birth to his twilight years. He refused to believe that this bald donkey, who'd only been around for a few 100,000 years, had actually succeeded. Rumble. Another bolt of heavenly lightning fell. This time it was violet. It was the most powerful of all heavenly lightning. The surrounding immortals couldn't help but tremble. They could already sense the destructive power of this bolt of heavenly lightning. They were practically imagining what would happen if the lightning fell. Would the beast region, and perhaps even the 3 realms, survive? However, as this bolt of heavenly lightning was falling, the heavenly lightning began to move. It vanished. Ba, said the Buddha coolly, turning his head. The ancestral Buddha turned his head and spoke calmly. A woman in a plain dress slowly walked over from the void. Xiao Ting, do you admit to your crimes?